Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of the School Committee of the Town of Foxborough. Today is October 5th, 2015. Tonight's agenda is visitors, approval of minutes, our teaching and learning highlight tonight featuring the role of the technology integration specialist as coach to teachers and students, which is a position I know we all love. Ms. Caitlin Brown's going to give us an athletic director update. Thank you, Caitlin. We're going to review the 2015 Culture and Climate Survey results. Then we're going to go over the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Coordinated Program Review Report for English Learner Education, ELE. Dr. Berdos will take us through a curriculum review cycle. Ms. Spinelli will go through her goals for 2015-2016. Mr. Yukna has an update on the FHS lighting with an in-kind service donation. We then have acceptance of another donation. We'll review the enrollment for October 1st update and then take any other matters. Any visitors who want to be heard tonight? Seeing none, I'm going to use a minute or two of the visitor time at the chair discretion here to congratulate Ms. Spinelli on some exciting news.
Well, I guess it's our daughter and her husband that probably deserve the congratulations. But yes, Dawn and I are proud new grandparents of a beautiful little baby girl. Yesterday. So.
Have they named her yet?
Yes, they named her after her great-grandmother, my mother-in-law, Lydia Spinelli, and her uncle, Dan Grimes, who passed away 6 months ago. That's my son-in-law's brother. So her name is Lydia Danny Grimes.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, beautiful.
Very cute name.
And Justine's doing well?
Yes. Yep, they're doing well.
Good. Well,
not easy. It is not easy, but yes, they're great, and the baby's beautiful, and everyone's healthy and happy.
Well, sincere congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
It's
very
pretty
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing to be a first-time grandparent.
And Don's pretty excited.
Oh my goodness, yes. We may or may not be going back to the hospital tomorrow. She'll be in for a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back tomorrow.
Well,
I'm just saying, it's been a whole day. So, skip today, should go back tomorrow. But,
well, it's exciting news over the weekend. We're
yes.
very, very happy for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. We have some minutes from September 21st. Regular meeting minutes.
I just had one change, Bruce.
Yeah.
My friend Mrs. Hickey's first name is spelled with a C, so under teaching and learning highlights, the third line down, it's Kathy with a C, not a K. So I just wanted to point that out. But other than that, I didn't see anything. Right? Kathy is.
Oh, wait.
She's with a C.
Anybody else notice anything in the minutes? I had one idea that I wanted to share with the committee and see what you all think, but we had a brief but I think important discussion about MCAS and Park at the last meeting, and I appreciate the comments Janet put in here to summarize the discussion. I wonder if we should just add one more sentence at the end, maybe that, or even before the last sentence that talks about the discussion that followed, but something, Mrs. Spinelli, that reflects something to the effect of your comments, as I recall them being that you and Dr. Berdos remain very focused on the issue, and that you feel as though, regardless of what happens, that MCAS is ready for an upgrade, or however you want to.
That's fine.
You know, something that just states that, because
That's a good idea.
I think the way I read this so far, it talks about, you know, we're waiting on a decision, but I'd like us to be a little more active, because I know you two are more active
Yes.
in watching that. Does that?
Yes. So let's capture that. So that we. I like what you first started. That we.
So I'd suggest inserting a sentence right before the last one. The last one reads, "Discussion followed regarding MCAS and Park." Something that just says that the superintendent and assistant superintendent continue to review this topic closely, and that it is your collective opinion that the MCAS served its purpose but is ready to be updated, or something to that effect. However you, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, that is what we said, that the MCAS is 17 years old and ready to, that we expect it to shift, and rightly so, whatever that will be.
To a next generation assessment.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe that's the right way to say it.
yeah, that's good.
Janet, do you need that one more time?
Okay.
I know you're pretty good
Superintendent and the assistant superintendent continue to review this topic closely. MCAS does need to be updated to the next generation.
Yep, it is our collective opinion
That's, okay.
that the MCAS is 17 years old and ready to be updated to the next generation, to the next generation assessment system.
Yeah, and I think if I recall your comments, they were, and I'm not suggesting we had this part, but I'm just trying to remember the conversation. I think what you said was, you're not sure what'll be approved as Park as it stands today, or some version of, but there is something that we need to do to better reflect student ability to demonstrate learning and content and knowledge, and not just regurgitate, memorization.
Yes.
Right, so are we, okay. Okay.
Right. That a next generation assessment system that asks students to apply what they know. To apply and use what they know, not just
Do you want
regurgitate
to
information.
reflect that?
Yes.
Okay.
I get that right. That reflects, I think I have it, Janet, we can connect tomorrow.
Okay.
The need to have students apply what they know. Rather than just blah, blah, regurgitate. Which is what they're asked to do in the classroom every day now. I mean, I think Melissa
better
can tell
reflect
you
what takes
that
place.
you're, we'll check with our expert in what students are asked. So you're not asked in school to just spit back information or memorize it, give it back. You're asked to, what do you know and can you do something with it in class? Can you apply it?
Yes, we usually apply it to what we learn rather than just getting spit out questions. We have to test and
Right.
do different activities, all that kind of stuff.
Right, so however we word it, it really is that whatever the new assessment turns out to be that follows MCAS, it does need to, it'll most closely match what we're asking students to do every day. And that's why we like the new way it's going, because students are no longer asked to just memorize and give it back. They have to apply what they know in meaningful ways. So,
Would rote memorization be better than recurge?
yeah,
A little cleaner?
Yeah, and I don't know that you even need to go to that much detail. I'll
No.
leave it.
let's see. To have students apply what they know,
Yeah, I think that's what.
as they are expected to do in classrooms every day.
Yeah. So Debbie, do you mind reading back what you wrote?
All right, let's see how I did.
This does reflect the discussion. I think this is a good addition, because I just
Right.
rewatched the meeting, actually. Shouldn't admit that, but I did. So, yeah, I know. But, but it does
That's
reflect the
dedication
discussion.
for you. So it says, Dr. Bertels and Mrs. Spinelli continue to review this topic closely. It is their collective opinion that the MCAS is 17 years old and ready to be updated to the next generation assessment system.
That asks students to apply.
For the effective class daily.
Is old and ready to be updated. The next generation assessment systems require, I'm editing, editing. The next generation assessment systems require students to apply what they know as they're expected to do in classrooms every day. Not just memorize it. We know, not just memorize. I think that's a good one to put there. As they're expected to do in class every day.
Again, I think that's a big part of what you and Amy are leading in the district, so I think that's
Right.
important to document. Okay, is everybody comfortable with the way Debbie just reread it? And you can get that to Janet.
Well, with that, I make a motion that we accept the minutes of September 21 as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0, thank you. Thank you for letting me just take us through that for a minute. Okay, teaching and learning highlights, Ms. Spinelli.
Well, I'm really thrilled to have our three guests today, who are, I'll go left to right, Julia Greenstein, who's our tech integration specialist at the high school level and the coordinator of our tech integration efforts. We have Darlene Reed, who's a tech integration specialist at the elementary school. She travels. And Dan Ambrosio, who's our newest tech integration specialist at the Ahern Middle School. So if you guys could just pull all 3 chairs up to the guest table. I'm going to turn it over to Amy to talk about what this has done for us and what we hope it will continue to do. So I'm going to turn it right over to Amy.
I think this is a really important teaching and learning highlight to have, especially in light of the community support and your support as we've continued to be able to have coverage, if you will, at each of the 3 levels. And reading an article recently by Julie Evans, and it was more on mobile technology, and it was titled "A Vision for Mobile Learning, More Verbs, Fewer Nouns." And in that article, she talked about if you were to ask someone, what is mobile technology? They would give you nouns. They might say a smartphone, or they might say a laptop or a tablet or something like that. And really, technology education is more about the verbs. It's what are we asking students to do within the curriculum and the goals with teachers and classrooms. And that's what the 3 of them do. They work in collaboration as coaches with teachers. They work in collaboration with Aaron Heyer in the technology department. But to really take and leverage the technology that we have in a way that's going to support our curriculum as it is, and then take that to a much higher level and engage in ways that students are able to collaborate, teachers, you're taking it to a very different level. And I think that's a piece that you'll hear through, whether it's professional development embedded or on PD days, whether it's just coaching with teachers and their curriculum goals and what they're trying to do, and to take it to that level where it really is about the verbs and what's the actions that are taking place. So I'll turn it over to Julia.
Hi, thank you. When we talk about defining our role as a tech integration coach, one of the first places that we look are to the ISTE standards for coaching. That's the standards that define what it is that we do. And when we look at those standards, the word that appears and the concept that appears most often is learning. It appears 39 times in the standards. It actually appears more times than technology itself. So that is really our focus. It is all about learning. Our job crosses a lot of boundaries, and we serve many functions. We handle some data and assessment. We partner with curriculum to be able to integrate technology into daily lessons. We serve as change agents. We help to transform. And we also serve as digital learning environment gurus, helping people to choose the right tool to accomplish the right goal. We collaborate with Aaron Heyer and his team for seamless rollout of new technologies and programs. And working together as a team helps us to not just be a district with a lot of new technology. It helps us to be a district that has put into practice the pedagogy needed in order to be a district that fully leverages our technology for our students and teachers.
So as we're beginning our second year of implementing Office 365, staff showed an interest in learning more about the tools available in Office 365 for collaboration and productivity and organization, as well as 24/7 access. So in August, we designed and developed and delivered training on Office 365 and OneNote to 142 of our classroom teachers. And this encompassed teachers from, incorporated teachers from health and world language, and then the learning will continue for our elementary teachers in January. So we followed up this traditional PD with one-to-one training, small group instruction, and also implemented an online training portal through Brain Honey, our new LMS. Our teachers have taken this training, and they have created over 190 groups that they use for collaborating and sharing information and ideas. And this has been especially helpful for teachers who work at different locations, different schools, and also those with, that don't share the same schedule.
So OneNote notebooks, which are essentially just a digital notebook or digital binder, they're used in many classes throughout the district now: math, science, reading specialists, just about every kind of classroom, and it's really changing the way we deliver our practice and pedagogy for the better. Students have access to these digital notebooks anytime, anywhere they want, anywhere they have internet connection. That includes their mobile devices, tablets, and phones, and things of that nature. There's no more lost homework. There's no more excuses. My dog ate it and anything like that. And now if a child misses a day of school, they can immediately go back and look at any notes that they missed that day in class. They also allow for more personalized learning. So a teacher can go in, look at the student's progress, and while they're working on that project, give immediate feedback. So there's real-time feedback. Our students are using the tools within OneNote and Office 365 for partner reading journals. They improve their reading fluency using the audio feature. They can also work together to build collaborative documents, so PowerPoint presentations, Word documents, things of that nature. So they're truly exhibiting 21st century learning skills in a learning environment that's constantly evolving. So we're trying to keep up with that. Being a responsible digital citizen is a lifelong skill. For this reason, it's imperative that our students receive consistent, timely instruction while we still have them in our classrooms. We have continued our focus on digital citizenship at both the elementary and secondary level. The curriculum focus on topics that are pertinent to helping students, as I like to say, shine online, being responsible. We have continued our focus on digital citizenship to include topics such as protecting private information, copyright and fair use, cyberbullying, limiting screen time, as well as their digital footprint and how to communicate effectively online. We began introducing these concepts to students at the elementary level, focusing on the 4th grade. At the middle school, we've completed training for all the 7th and 8th grade students. We'll finish up the 6th grade this week, and then we're hoping to finish out the 5th grade by the end of the year. Digital citizenship in the high school is often embedded within the content areas as well as through the Warrior Huddle.
So last week we attended a 4-day training at Microsoft offices in Cambridge, Mass, and we are now officially certified as Microsoft trainers. And the training was
congratulations.
Thank you. The training was fantastic, but it also gave us an opportunity to network with people from other districts and to hear about their experiences with Office 365. And I think in talking to them and hearing stories of their struggles and carrying out their technology initiatives, it gave us an increased appreciation for the support that we get for technology integration here at Foxborough.
In a few weeks, we're going to be presenting at MassQ, our state technology conference, and we're going to be presenting on teaching and coaching for success for students and teachers. And as a part of our presentation, we asked the teachers in our buildings, what is the best thing about having an integration specialist on staff here in your buildings available to you? Let you know a few of the things that they had to say. Having an instructional specialist helps me identify the technology tools that match my students' needs and put them to use right away so that my teaching is enhanced that very day. It makes the process seamless. There is no way I would have had all my students in OneNote, been using OneNote myself, or embedding video and flipping my classroom without the help of our instructional technologist. Thanks to OneNote training, you saved me 50 minutes at the copier this morning. Yeah, anytime you can save a teacher time at a copier, you have won a friend for life. Incorporating OneNote into my developmental reading program levels the playing field for my students. They are more productive and willing to share their thoughts while reading and keeping an accurate record of the books they've read. Support builds confidence. In turn, we can support students and build their confidence. Just some great things that our teachers have to say about, us being able to be there with them, and we really appreciate that opportunity and the investment that's been made there. Recent improvements by our technology department to our school infrastructure, including Wi-Fi access in every building, additional interactive whiteboards, smart notebook software deployment, and mobile devices in every school, combined with our efforts in supporting technology integration, are helping us to move closer to our district vision of a compelling learning environment that leverages technology to provide authentic learning experiences for every student. Thank you. Do you have any questions for us?
I have a suggestion on how to improve the appreciation of time at the copy machine. Bring back one of the old mimeograph ones. Have them crank them out for a while without getting any purple ink on your clothes. They will love the copy machine and not complain that it's not even new enough. Their old limping one will look like gold.
I don't have a question other than I wish you could come home with me and give me some coaching because my children are so much farther ahead in this than I am due to what they're doing in the classroom. I did want to comment at open house for the 8th grade that I attended a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago or just last? A couple weeks ago. And
Yes, it was.
it's for my younger son. My older son is in 10th grade, and I can see the difference even in the last 2 years. Same teachers, same classrooms, but the way they're utilizing the technology in their classrooms is, you can tell that they are flourishing. They were, I mean, it was great education 2 years ago when my older son was there, but that they are definitely taking to heart and taking your coaching and running with it. It's fantastic. And my third observation, then I'm done, is we were away in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and my kids had their iPads with them, and there were no excuses. Anytime, anywhere really does mean you can email your teacher and find out what the assignment is if you can't figure it out, or you can do your work in OneNote and get it done, and you know, it's there. So thank you for that.
Students aren't happy when I point that out.
It's
They
much,
want to keep that news from the
Exactly.
parents. They don't want their parents to know.
but it's much better than having to make it up the next week. Because, I mean, we have very good, conscientious students, all of us at this table and in our district, and it does make it easier when, I mean, we sat on the tarmac for 3 hours, so it's nice when you have Wi-Fi on the plane and you can catch up, you know, on that sort of thing. So I think it's great, and the teachers are using it in so many ways. I walked out with a group of parents, 7th graders and 8th graders, and they were just bowled over by the wonderful things our teachers are doing in the classroom with the technology. Yeah, it really was. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just a compliment to the administration. 3 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation, not from any blockage, but this thing's really got some pretty good legs right now and is moving forward. And I hope you get to see life cycle stuff on the horizon to look out for things that might be gotchas for us. And it sounds like we're a pretty talented group of people here watching for that and not getting trapped. But
I actually
3 years
appreciate
ago,
that comment,
wow,
because
right?
we discussed this. None of these people were here 3 years ago,
Yeah.
so
Right.
just the value that they've brought and the support we've
Yeah.
had for getting it right in terms of the structure and the right technology leadership too
Yeah.
has been just. Thanks for saying that. We have gotten some legs under us in this.
I think
Yeah.
Julia said it earlier, that it's not just owning the technology, it's utilizing it in the right way. And I think that's the piece that you are helping us, you know, make sure we are using it the right way, in the most, the way that leverages it the best for learning. So it was great.
Yeah, I too was going to pile on that point, Steve, so let me be the third one on that one. I think for the community, when they listen to how we choose to spend money on the school committee, I think we had a lot of discussion each time we wanted to add a new position here. And now when you hear the three of you speak so eloquently and really with a lot of specifics about what you're accomplishing, frankly, I don't want my kids going to school here without that. I mean, we are at a point in age, a day and age, where we need you working with those teachers so importantly. It's so critical. And I really think, just listening to what you described, you've come so far. So I think this is such a smart investment for us to continue to move this district along the path it's been on in the past and keep that going into the future. So I really appreciate what you're doing. And one of the comments that you made about being a change agent, I know how challenging that is. It's not easy for staff to take on new tools. We don't give them a lot of time. We give them a lot more PD in this district, professional development in this district, than many, but even still, there's not enough time. So without you there to make them feel comfortable, it just doesn't happen, and I know that. So I think your role as change agent is critical, vital to what we want to do.
It's interesting. One of the things that we talk about a lot with these three and Amy and I is that we have great teachers here who truly are a pleasure to work with because they will try anything and they are not afraid. So I think it's a combination of getting the right talented people, because as individuals, whether it's me or a classroom teacher at any level, you can't be the only person by yourself trying to figure out everything that's out there and what direction you should be going in by yourself. I certainly feel that in my role, and I know every teacher does, but we've got terrific teachers who are not afraid of trying new things. We just have to get the right supports around them, because they can't be the experts in everything and then move forward in everything. So I think we've got a willing, very creative, professional staff who work very hard. And to me, they're a pleasure to work with, and I know that you three who are new have all said the same thing to me. So I think that it's a winning combination.
Good point. Any other comments?
Are you seeing it?
I use the email a lot. I can communicate with my teachers a lot, and like we have, I believe Miss White, she made a group with my entire like class, so we can get like information about colleges and stuff, and that's really helpful. Like we look at all that. I mean, I use it a lot. I use it in my bio class, my physics class. I use it all. Thank you.
And you have to, because we're on to you now. We have to keep. Thanks.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming in, or staying late, as the case may be. And, you know, I hope you get the sense that the committee's really focused on technology, have been for a few years, but this year especially. And Debbie's really, to her credit, jumped right in and said, okay, you know, we're going to really make a difference with this. And the three of you embody that. So thank you for what you're doing. And I have to go on a tangent just for a minute. I've gotten to know Mr. Ambrosio in a different capacity as our JV soccer coach this year, his first year, and the team is having the most success they've had in recent past. So I've gotten to know Dan as a coach of young boys too. He's doing a great job. So we're keeping Dan very busy.
We hire great people, multi-talented people.
They are talented. I worked hard to get these people right here.
Well,
you have to be a
We
destination of
appreciate
choice,
you.
I will just say. And it's important to us to be a destination of choice, right, people? You've all been victims of my hard sell and my enthusiasm for Foxborough, so it seems to work.
It's a good sell.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. You make it so evident that, you know, I said from the beginning, we knew you were at the cusp of something a year ago that was going to be great, and I knew I wanted to be a part of it. So you do have a great sale. Good. There we go.
Thanks.
Good to hear.
Yeah, it's important.
The only other comment that I wanted to make is we talk about technology. It's not just the technology and the coaching, it's really the relationships too. And out of the three of them, the talent that's there and the hard work, it's clearly evident in what they've done. But it's the relationships too that they're able to connect with the teachers and be able to really make headway as fast as we are. And it speaks to what you have already talked about. But it's we've got the whole package.
It's awesome.
There.
I really love that Amy asked them to come and instead of nouns, talk about the verbs. So they were asked to come without any fancy technology and really just talk about what they do, which I'm sure is challenging for the three of you. But it's really about their role and not to show you how fancy the things are that we use. So good job making them focus on the verbs. It was good. It's nice just to be able to not focus on the technology you're using, but to focus on the three of you, and I think that's great.
Thank you for what you do every day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
so much.
Can the three of you just write your names and positions?
So Mr. Dunal gets the information he needs, which is absolutely fine. We will invite Caitlin to the
We
table.
will.
Is that right?
Yes, so Caitlin Brown, our athletic director, will be coming up to the guest table. And she's going to be providing an update on all things sports and athletic department related. She does have a PowerPoint for you that we told her probably do more than a few verbs, but so she's got something that will be shown at home. So we're ready. Who's doing the PowerPoint monitoring?
She is, unless she'd like me to.
No, I can use.
You've got
can
it.
I use
All right,
this?
she's
Yep,
got a
that's
clicker.
great. Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome, Caitlin.
Okay, so thank you
Caitlin.
for having me. I'm happy to be here. You know, I always look forward to talking about athletics. I do look forward to be out in the field, so at nighttime it's nice to be here with all of you. So thank you for this opportunity. When I started, and I kind of went to Debbie and asked her for some direction about what are we looking for in athletics. You know, I know we can talk about facilities, we can talk about coaching numbers, but to me athletics is a lot more than that. And so I really looked at our mission statement through the athletic program. It wasn't something that I created, but I inherited. But I think through the competition, the qualities of sportsmanship, leadership, pride, respect, and maturity are fostered. And I really look at athletics as an extension of the classroom, and I feel very strongly about that. So it's something that I've really honed in on as athletic director. So one of the things that I focused on as athletic director was leadership. I really feel strongly about leadership training. I have to say, if any of you are familiar with the band and the program Steve Massey does, he does leadership training at 6:45 or 6:15 is probably early. 6:15.
6:30.
6:30. Okay, so 6:30 in the morning every Friday. He brings in his students to do some leadership training, and you know, I've gone through a training with him. One of the coaches and teachers in the building all last year went to the leadership training, was a football coach at the time, and it's something I feel very strongly about, that we ask these kids to be leaders, but then we don't tell them how to lead. And it is something it's a skill. So this year with the Hockomock League, I worked with the Milford and Mansfield athletic director to revamp the way we do our captains conferences, to change them from 700 kids sitting in a conference room being lectured at to something be a little bit more interactive, and really creating a leadership curriculum for the Hockomock League to use. So it's something I feel really, I have a lot of pride in. We had our first one, you know, we had some bumps and bruises. The vegetarian option we ordered from BJ's didn't show up, so we had a few, things. But I think overall,
That's a glitch.
It is a glitch. We're good with glitches.
That was not your fault.
Yeah.
Not your
but I think
pre-planning.
what came out of it was some student athletes from Taunton, who was going to be hosting it this time, decided they wanted to take on some ownership of the conference and really wanted to work with, in collaboration of this group of athletic directors. And to me, that's a win. You know, we've learned something, so we're not just helping Foxborough student athletes, but we're really looking at the entire league of the 12 teams. You know, with that, I also created the Captain's Code of Conduct. That was something that I thought we needed in our handbook. So that was put in the September of last year. And it was really, I like to give coaches and teams their ability to run their program the way they want to run their program. But I think as captains, we need to give them a little bit more direction what it means. Melissa's a captain, so, and she's a great student leader. Just a little bit of understanding what it means to be a captain and how you represent your program and the athletic department the minute you put on that C. I think the minute you put on that uniform, but people look up to you, and I always say to the seniors, if you go back to your freshman year, you know every single senior, what they did, what they say, what they wore. Now that's you, and you don't realize it, and you forget what it was like to be a freshman, but people are always watching you in the community, and it's not just kids, it's parents, it's adults, so really trying to work with them. And part of that now with my captains, the code of conduct, is explaining to them, and now I need to continue to work on leadership training in the school, working with the captains, working with groups, and it's something that I'm still working on. How do I find the time, because they're busy. They're demanding them to come after school when they've got practices, or before school when they have band, so it's finding that time, and I'm still working myself. It's a work in progress. I think it's been my SMART goal for 4 years. That and communication have been my same SMART goals, because I think as I continue to improve on it, we're still finding areas that we need to work on. I was able to work with another teacher in the building to develop a leadership curriculum, hopefully with Amy's approval, with your commitment, to create a class. A lot of it based on what Steve did, but using other sources to really create a leadership class in here. It's just not student athletes. Anyone can take to learn some of those skills.
I like it.
Yeah, we're hoping. So we worked on it this summer, and we're going to continue working on it throughout the year. And I'm inviting myself to participate, even though I'm not a teacher, because I miss the classroom so much that I invited myself as a co-teacher thing. I didn't give them a choice. So.
Do you think we might be considering doing that for next September?
Yeah, we're looking on that to do for next September.
You at least need like a description.
Yeah, we've worked on the description. We've worked on the curriculum. We've read. We've looked at books. You've got the TED Talks. We're really making a project-based class, but it's still in its infancy. So it's still a work in project, but something that I'm really excited. Again, I'm trying to get myself back and. I miss the kids, so I forced myself upon the social studies department. Another thing that I am proud about is the sportsmanship guidelines for the league. I was told a few years ago, according to our student body, that I am the toughest AD when we have games, that I'm very mean to them, and so I said, no, it's not that I'm mean. I just have a high expectation of how our fans act, and I want them there, and I love them there, and there's nothing Bedford athletic director, and I have that picture. That's from the girls' basketball game last year when I came back after maternity leave, and to have all these students there supporting one another is incredible. And they've developed their own group, and they're really taking off. And I'm so thrilled. But we wanted to understand what the expectations are. So I really said, throughout the Hockomock League, we all have to, as athletic directors, have the same expectations. So another thing that I took on through the league was to work in conjunction with them to, create a guideline of sportsmanship. So it's really taking a little bit off what the MIA does, but we thought we would talk about what acceptable behavior is instead of just always chastising them for unacceptable behavior. But, recognizing the performances, being respectful to games officials and players, and realizing to get out in a court and to get out of fields, I think anything you do, you're putting yourself out there, and you're anywhere from 15 to 18 years old, and that's a lot. So, it's really to appreciate what you're seeing, the performance you're seeing, and to be respectful of that. And I think our student athletes have really taken that on. They love their theme nights. Whether it's beach theme, blackout, I can't keep track. It was blackout.
It was blackout the other night.
It was blackout the other night.
Hilarious.
Yeah, they're great, and so I want to be supportive, and so I figure if I tell them what my line is, they can get up to it, put their toes on it a little bit, and then back themselves off. And they listen to me. They're great. So we really worked on that, and I think having that kind of consistency across all the venues that they attend is important for all student athletes, not just Foxborough student athletes.
Caitlin, I'm sorry to interrupt because you're on such a good roll, but I'm just curious, how do you communicate that to fans?
To fans? Well, we had, and I don't know where, I created this at the end of the season in 2013. Last year, I know the interim AD put it on the back of every fan expectation on the back of the roster that they gave them. We also had printouts of them somewhere, and I don't know where they are right now, but the printouts of them. It's harder to do at football games. It's easier at basketball games because, and it's also, the crowd control at basketball games is a little different than some of the outdoor venues. As I
You
said,
can definitely see it at basketball games, that they know where the line is. They're enthusiastic right up to the line.
Yes.
But appropriate.
Yes, and then you just sometimes all it takes is a
really
look,
nice.
and they know who they are, and they know who they are, and they know when that line is. But I also think it's building it up and meeting with the students ahead of time, so you're not at the game, saying, okay, we know we have an important game for the student leaders. Whether they, people know it or not. So a lot of times I sit down with them. It's like, what's the theme going to be? What are we going to do? Are we all okay? And I think we have a nice back and forth now where we talk about it. They share it with me. They talk to me about it. And I encourage them. I say, I want you at every game, and I want you being loud and cheering and positively cheering.
I'm not sure if you heard about the football game the other night.
Oh, I want to hear what you did, Marilyn.
Well,
I
the
heard
kids were fabulous.
Yes, that's what I heard. I heard the kids were fabulous.
And the AD came over, and the parents were screaming at them to get to the other side. And I stood there the whole time to make sure they were in line. And then when we tied, they kicked them all out. There was about probably 30 or 40 of them. And they all got up respectfully and walked over. And I said, you're being really disrespectful to our kids. They're doing nothing but cheering our kids on.
Yeah.
They were so respectful.
Yes,
And I stood there the whole time watching them to make sure they stayed in line. Because parents were yelling at me to get on the other side. It was probably 80% of Foxborough people on their side, because they have a small little, it was very chippy. We have a small one too. We let anyone sit on our bleachers. Parents were saying, you're not supposed to sit here to me. They were telling me to go sit over there, and I was just standing there. They were really harassing our kids, and one kid and parent said, they're not doing anything. I don't know why you guys are harassing them. So I just want to tell you, they were fabulous. Whatever you're doing, keep on doing it.
Well, thank you.
But as soon as he asked them to move, they all got up in unison, and even kids with crutches were going across the wet. It was horrible Friday.
Yes,
it was wet. It was freezing, and they all went on and respectfully went to the other side. So you're doing a great job.
Oh, well, I got a nice phone call from the candidate. They said, you've got wonderful students who were just nothing but respectful. And usually when you get those phone calls at 8:30 at night on a Friday night, it's that like, uh-oh.
No,
do I need to jump in my car right now
and
drive
fabulous.
And he said no. He just wanted me to know what respectful kids we had. And I say to them all the time, and I say to them all the time, you are one of the best high school, or the best high school in the Hockomock League, and so I always say I'll defend you to the end. So they're great, and they really do, and they listen. It's really them. I mean, I'd like to take credit for them, but they really are just a great group of kids who understand and are respectful. And I say respectful of me in my role as athletic director. It makes it easy because it's not a lot of yelling. It's really sometimes just a look, and they put their head down and they know and they nod their head and that's their warning, and then we go back, and it works out very well. Even when I was very pregnant, sitting in the stands with them, they were always, our kids are great. I mean, I can't really say enough about them. The other thing we're working on is a little bit about character education. So this year, I signed up, I'm working with the Positive Coaching Alliance. And some of you might know it through youth sports. They do a lot of work with youth sports. But I thought it was a great area for our parents, coaches, and student athletes. So it's a 3-year commitment, and the first year this is the first year we're doing the partnership. We had a parent workshop where we talked a little bit about how to have those conversations with your kids, and I won't share the story, but I talked about my experience growing up, and I had a very intense father and who I love dearly, and he is my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter. And still to this day, I have 2 kids of my own. He's still trying to take care of me or give me advice, whether I want it or not. But I was playing sports, and he, as my biggest cheerleader, he was also one of my toughest critics. And so at one point, I did not do as well, and I knew I didn't do it well. My mother was there, and she was just happy to be there. And so he left the game, and afterwards I got some awards, which was great. It was the end of the season. And I knew why he left. My mother could couch it any way she wanted to couch it, she could say. But he left because I wasn't playing well. And so it was a great learning experience for me and my father, and I think we had a very strong relationship, but it built it even more. And I was the oldest, so I figured they make the mistakes on the oldest. I'm doing the same to mine, And he didn't realize the impact he had. And I think that's what the Positive Coaching Alliance does. It kind of really talks about the impact that student athletes have with each other in a team, but also the parents, how they impact their kids, and the joy that just enjoy watching your kids. Whatever it may be, that it's just a joy to watch them. And then also the coaches, and to realize how being positive, being supportive can give you the benefits you're looking for. And I say it to my coaches all the time. I don't care about wins and losses, which I'm very competitive, so yes I do. But I really care about the character that we're teaching these kids, and how to deal with resiliency, how to deal with setbacks, because those are things that I'd rather them learn on the playing field and in the school and in this district than learn out in the real world, and then when they don't have the support system to build them back and pick them back up. But I think with the character education and learning how to do that, you then find success on the playing field, and I think they go hand in hand. So really, it's been a motto of mine with our athletic department is, if you have to have those tough conversations with kids, or as coach, I'd rather you teach them the character stuff first, and then the wins and losses will come. And in some of our most successful programs, you see that happen all the time, so including Melissa's girls lacrosse programs. We'll talk about them later. Another thing is that we do at the Hockomock League of Scholar Athletes. Those were our winners last year. These are the past winners for the last 3 years that I've been athletic director. But we focus on awards for different student athletes, and the 12 schools in the Hockomock League do that. And it's a really nice night. We get guest speakers in, and we just focus on the celebration of athletics, but also academics first. And so it's a great night for everyone. And then respect for others. We started the Unified Track and Field program this past year, and last time I was here, I think I was explaining to you what it was. It was a great first year. Here are some of our participants. We held a meet here in Foxborough, and we're going to continue to expand this with the wellness department. They are doing an alternative, and I'm probably not saying it correctly, but an alternative wellness class or health gym class, which we're going to hope work together and bring kids into the track and field program. So we'll expand it to more and more participants this year. It was the best. If you ever want to go, if some of you may have attended Special Olympics, but to go to one of these track meets and see kids performing and the support they provide for each other, it's incredible. So I really liked it. The MIA is hoping to put actually a state competition for unified track, like an all-state performance. And we're also looking to expand it in other areas as we get more comfortable with track, possibly basketball or soccer. But again, that's a work in progress. Something that's on the back of my mind, but do not yet have a plan how that would work. So without a plan, I don't want to make any commitment. Another thing is the community service our student athletes do and our teams do. You know, I have a picture from, I think Kristen Dorico sent me about the Progeria run last year. Field hockey and soccer teams do breast cancer awareness. The field hockey team has their pink socks on right now for the month of October. We've done ice hockey and basketball games to donate money to cancer research. And it's not necessarily about donating money or time. It's like even the track team helping out with the discretionary fund right around the holidays, moving boxes and things like that. You know, it's giving back to the community, I think is a great lesson that all of our, you know, students can learn, and something I feel strongly about. I really, myself, when I do community service, it's just a great feeling. So hoping that. Another area, which is my constant, I'm still working on, communication, is trying to find the best way to communicate. I do use Twitter. We have about 740 followers. I always want more. I'm trying to taking about 6 months off of using Twitter affected my followers, so now I'm trying to get back up into allowing people. It kind of allows me real-time communication. And speaking of real-time communication, at the game, all of a sudden my phone went off and there was a Twitter message from the Superfan group explaining to me the injustice that was going on to them at the Canton game and the oppression that was happening to them. And as they said later, they're like, we're a little dramatic. It's just a little bit. But they were, but it was kind of neat to have that real-time interaction with them. And, you know, I'm trying to take the positive spin. I'm like, well, we scored 10 points.
We won.
When you were on the other side, so maybe that was a good thing. And I didn't get a response after that. But, you know, I do like Twitter. I like the real-time communication. It really does allow that, and it does let me interact with the kids a little bit more. It's something that I really miss from in the classroom. We started using the Google Calendar. There's pros and cons. I'm still trying to work this out. I've actually met with I've talked to a couple of different high schools about developing an app for Foxborough High School. So I've met with a couple different companies, and I've talked to them. I've met with Medfield High School, Canton High School has an app, Whitman Hanson, some of them, and I mentioned it to our tech people, and they said, oh, the iSchool Advocates could help you with that. And I said, oh, that's even better. Like, this is, who needs an outside company when you've got the, you know, the technology here? So it is, there's all these ways, and it is a constant, I'm still trying to figure out the best way, and I wish I could have an answer. You know, what I do is I do create all these calendars, and how do you get them on the web page? That's another thing I really look forward to working with Aaron within the technology group, is to have the web page a little bit more user friendly for my purposes, and it's purely selfish on my end, as like how do we get information out to people. So I really rely on my coaches to kind of trying to model to them what I would like from them, and it's humans are involved in technology, so it's not always perfect, but I do create weekly calendars, season-wide calendars, transportation, I mean, with the help of the transportation department, everyone, and it's just to try to get these information out there. So I would love to have if someone can give me a magic answer, I would love it, but it's such I feel like my world is always changing, and I could show up that day and thinking, oh, this is what we're going to do, and then something happens and you have to change it. So it's trying to figure out how do you get that best out to the most people, right. And then having the kids take for some responsibility themselves as well, because I do want them to understand the responsibility of controlling their own schedule and not having other people looking for them.
I think too, if I could add, I think the challenge is, you know, you're always upgrading how you communicate and help people keep track of what's happening, but you have dozens of coaches. So how can you as one person ensure that dozens of coaches communicate as effectively or as well? I think sometimes that can be where the glitch is, because like you said, they're all people with different styles. So if they have a last minute change of a time or a requirement, or bring this piece of equipment or don't bring that, it's reliant on the coach.
And I think a lot of times you realize what the coach, you give people expectations and you explain what you expect from them. And then it depends on what people do with it. So then what you do is usually when something, there's a glitch, I'll call it a glitch, and the system, then you realize, okay, where did the breakdown happen and how do we fix it? For me, one time, you know, sometimes you make a mistake, okay, if it happens over and over again, then we have a real systematic problem, but we can fix those glitches. And, you know, one of the things is I I like things in a certain format on Excel, so I'm like, well, I'm just going to give it to the coaches and say, this is what I expect out of you. And so just having those expectations for the coaches, and also trying to remind myself, a lot of them are teachers, a lot of them have other jobs. This is a part-time job for them. So some of them have the ability to do it, some of them don't. And so I always, what can I do to help you? And if there's an area that, if you know you are a wellness teacher and you're not sitting down in front of a computer until 2 o'clock, well, then what's the best way for you and I to communicate? But I think it's having those conversations with coaches. And again, sometimes you don't realize it's happening until there is a breakdown, and then you're looking at. I mean, I give my expectations, I explain what I'd like, but sometimes it doesn't happen, so then I figure out what on my end can I do to help, because that's the way I figure. It's whatever I can do to help make it so our student athletes don't know anything of, like, I think at one point you said Aaron was like a duck on water and like his feet were going, like, I don't want our student athletes to know what's going on underneath. I just want them to show up at a game and know to be there, and this is when it is, and prepared right. And to them think about the game, because they have a lot of other things to think about, so let us worry about all the little details as adults. So that's the goal. I would like to say we hit that goal, but it depends on the day. So we're still really, and something I feel very strongly in. And I do admit, if I look back at my SMART goals from 4 years ago when I took the job, communication is still on that. Now I've just found different ways that I need to communicate, because what I thought naively, year one, I realized, I look back at it and I'm like, oh, that was naive. There's a lot of other steps along the way. So the other thing is health and wellness. We do impact testing, pre-concussion screening for all juniors and freshmen who participate in athletics. And our number of concussions, for 2 years in a row, it was 33. The first year I was here, it was 25, and that's kind of the history that I have since I started. We are required to review concussion protocol, and I think as a school district, we've really gotten, I've been impressed at the high school about how aware teachers are, our staff is, about how concussions cannot just impact you on the athletic field, but it just in general in your classroom environment. I'm really fortunate to have a trainer who works closely with the school nurse to help make sure that these student athletes can get back to, I don't even care about participating in athletics, but get back to functioning in their classrooms. If you ever had a concussion, and so much has changed in the last 10 years about concussion, and more information is coming out, but say your brain is so valuable, we just want to protect it and get it better. So I rely on the staff to help me with that. And the other thing is pride. We've had a great few years here. Our girls tennis team were South sectional winners. They were state finalists for the second year in a row. Matt Kelly was an all-state wrestling champ. Coach Martinelli won his 250th career win. Our girls basketball were South sectional finalists, and these were all within the last year, so it's not going back far for this. Boys were South sectional semifinalists. Girls lacrosse, you were South sectional semifinalists. Boys were soccer, were South sectional semifinalists. So we are a small school, but we're competing at the highest level, and it's really fun to go to these extra games and see this. And I'm just hoping the tennis team has twice been runner-up for state champions. And they always do it with a smile, and it's been fun to watch. And the girls lacrosse team ran into Medfield 2 years in a row. Also looks saying, boys lacrosse team ran into Medfield a few years. The boys, the basketball team, they had a great run and almost beat Fian, and the girls basketball team lost to Duxbury for the second year in a row. So we really, they're competing at the highest level, and that's a lot of pride. So I think you do get the student athletes are now want to come and support these teams, and they come to everything. Really. And this is just a breakdown of some of the coaching ratios from the time that I've been here, based on the participation numbers. And if you see, it has 2 numbers. For boys soccer, we've only had 2 until this year. We've had 3 coaches this year. Girls soccer, we've had 3 coaches up until this year, we only have 2. It gives you, we have had more and more participants every year since I've been here. And I mean that we always limited our school size. It's stayed roughly around the same, but we're having more and more kids participate in more than one sport, which again, I think is great, which is really exciting.
So the ratios for the fall sports look pretty good.
Yeah, they do. They do look good. And here we have some of the ratios for the winter sports. You do have swimming is one area where we need to, again, start about
We've been talking about swimming.
We have been talking about swimming, and that's another program that started off, I would say, was it 5 or 6 years ago, and it's really continued to grow. Our girl numbers are a lot. I combine them both because we have one coach, but we have a lot of female athletes participating in swimming, not as many male athletes, but they are separate teams. It's a female team and a male team, but I would say we have 5. This year I think we'll only have 3 male participants and the rest are female participants. So I don't know why that breakdown, and something the coach as a teacher in the building is trying to change that.
So nice though to see it growing with the support of the Y, who lets us compete and practice there, which is invaluable.
We are so lucky to have the YMCA. I go to AD's meetings on a monthly basis, sometimes twice a month, and I'm just very fortunate. And I realize that when we all sit around and talk about the things that we're dealing with, and it's a lot of it is scheduling and things with the league, but I come away thinking I'm very lucky, and I just keep my mouth shut and I just smile a lot because I am very lucky. I'm very supported here in Foxborough, and I'm not saying that the other ADs aren't, but I just come away feeling very valued and appreciated.
We do the same thing at the superintendent meetings.
Yeah,
But we were talking about swimming in the other day with the swim coach Karen McNay, and the good news is that it's growing pretty rapidly. And with the support of the Y, and now that the Y, as you know, is giving the free swimming lessons through the Spear, generosity of the Spear family, we're going to be growing more swimmers in Foxborough. So I think we have to, you might be expected to see that back in budget season, but I think it's good that we need to acknowledge that and make a move, and also be prepared for the increased ongoing interest in swimming, which is terrific.
Yeah. And then this is our coaching ratios for the spring sports. And again, the track numbers, and you can see how much it helped. And I put 2.5 because thanks to the generosity, we increased by, I split it because we had one coaching position who it's a boys and a girls team, but they all are all the same team. Yeah. They're all there together. And so we've had, again, that's another area where we see students participating in and growth with it. Swimming and track, they can find a niche there, which is great. And then the second thing is our girls ice hockey co-op, which I was here last year with you. We had 5 girls participate last year. We have about 11 student athletes already signed up for this coming year just from Foxborough, which is wonderful. It does come at a cost, so it's a growing sport, and I'm thrilled that our student athletes are participating. So they had 11 sign up to participate. We'll see how many do that, and we'll be talking a little bit about that, about the cost that means for the district.
How many ice hockey players do you have to that really makes a team?
I was going to ask that.
I would say to be comfortable, around 18 to 25 would be really comfortable. What they were telling me with the co-op, and one of the reasons why they asked us to join it was the hockey people knew our numbers of female athletes participating at the youth level in a variety of different hockey teams, and that number was growing, and they knew there were a lot of Foxborough girls participating in that. And some schools, Olive Reigns and Mansfield, believe that we have a better chance of becoming our own team first.
Wow.
Based on the numbers that we have in the youth program, as long as they continue to come to Foxborough High School. But
that's great.
Yeah, so I think this year they have 26 girls signed up for the co-op. 11 are from Foxborough, 12 are from Mansfield, and then there's a smattering of Olive Reigns athletes.
Oh, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
considering
It's been 1 year. I know, it's been 1 year. And I think there was a little anxiety from the students who had participated in the boys team to go to the girls team at first, just something new and playing with new people. But when I came back and met with them after my maternity leave, they had a great experience. They really said what Catherine Luciano was named an all-star, and they said we were on the ice all the time. We got a lot of playing time, and so I think that anxiety of anything new, it was quickly dispelled, and they're very excited about it. As I said, so you want to still continue with this co-op? And they were like, yes, please. And I said, well, we'll have to see, but they really had a good experience, which is really, to me, the most important thing. If they come back with an experience that wasn't positive, or there was some, but they were very positive about it, so which was great. The Sanborns, so kind of the facilities. Again, what a luxury to have, and especially last spring having that field. I can't say enough about it. We have the turf field, we have the scoreboard, the lights will be. Bill will probably tell you when they'll be soon. Shortly. So, you know, and we can see the construction for the Sanborn, the Memorial Walk, and we're really looking forward to the next stage and really having a complete campus here. So, finishing the Sanborn, I know it's there and in place. It's just a matter of finishing it. The concession stand, you know, Debbie and members of the community have been working so hard to get done. It will, I feel like once we get that in place, really everything will start to fall in line. The 8-lane track, and track coaches constantly, you know, looking at it and can't wait for that opportunity. And then finally the bleachers in the press box. I think it will be a showstopper when it is out there. And I appreciate the community's support in that, you know, that it wasn't easy to do. And so I really appreciate that. But going along with that, I meant to take a nice picture, which I didn't do. But the baseball, softball, field hockey complex, if you go out in the back and you have a chance to look at it, I was looking for a picture already online when we did the flagpole dedication because that was a very special ceremony for the Guy family to have that and to be part of that. And to listen to the history of Foxborough from them, it was really great. It's a great complex out there. What I've been so impressed about is the support of the family members of the people in the program, what they've done to help complete that. Bill has been. I think he probably hears more from me than he wants to hear from me because he's been so supportive and so hands-on. What you don't realize, I mean, he likes to stay under the radar, but he's out there doing the stuff with everyone. And so we've really, between the softball field, the scoreboard, the dugouts, the flagpole, and the softball dugouts will be completed for next year. We're working on the batting cages as well. You know, and these, when I ask kind of like wish list items, you know, it would be nice to have a softball scoreboard and some seating out there because it is a really great facility. So it's, you know, we're really fortunate to have that in the back. And then the field hockey team has been playing there as well this fall.
So are those things in the budget?
Oh, no, these are just more of like a dream.
Okay.
If you, I'm realistic.
It's important you be clear on what you need.
These are not in the budget. These are a kind of a, if you are asking me kind of what I was thinking about, things that need to be complete, and I've asked other people who are in the athletic department about if you had a dream of an unlimited budget, which is, you know, I think the softball dugouts will be done. Those will be done.
Those actually have been already promised by the boosters, so they did the first half and they're going to do the others.
Yep.
And some pretty
So
great boosters here.
what's the timeline on that?
I actually haven't talked to Dave Feldman's been kind of the one who's been running that side of it, but my assumption is they'll have it done before the season this year.
Yes, I think that's what they made that.
That's what they've
Before
said,
the season?
Before the season this year. They made that commitment to do both.
Wow.
And that really is the Feldman, you know, they've been, they did the baseball and they did an incredible job. And there's a little storage facility next to it as well, so it's not just the dugouts, there's also a place to store things, which has been great. The batting cages are also, you know, they've been done and they've been committed to, and then it's a softball scoreboard and the seating. We have like a little bit of seating, but those are more wish list items. And kind of other wish list items, if asked, was the indoor batting cage was something that I'm working with the softball and baseball boosters on, because they feel strongly about trying to get some sort of indoor batting cage for those months in February, March, to try to get that in there, and something they want to make a commitment on doing as well, and committing to that cost. So we've worked with them. And then looking in terms of the boys' locker room, I went and spent some time over the summer, and I'm not talking about expansion, but saying just restructuring to add another team room. And that was really what it is that there's some space in there, and to try to be creative with the space we already have, and to see what we can do to create. But that's more of a wish list, as to create another team room to have there and use that space effectively, and get our students and our coaches to use the space effectively, because there is space in there.
But I also think, and I think Deb and I and Amy have put this out before, when we do finally move the football team back, we are currently using the IGO facility for our football locker room. And to be honest with you, what we have here I don't think would be adequate for a football team. But we do have the perfect location right off the existing locker rooms. So it is something else that we would be looking at down the road to, to incorporate back into the campus here, which would be to have the entire sports activities on one location. So again, it's not a big, fortunately that's not a big expenditure because you have everything else already in the locker rooms as far as showers and stuff like that, but you need a locker room. It was one of the things that we did very well, I think, with the girls area, which was very, I mean, it was 1,000 showers, but nothing else in there. So, working with with Caitlin and others, we basically redesigned that to give them additional locker room space so they could have multiple teams in there. I think that came up pretty well.
It's great if you ever a chance to go down there. They have 3 team rooms for the variety of seasons, and then they also have the yoga Zumba room in there for the wellness classes, and they have a projector on there, so they're doing that. And you can, I do walk through, and I keep joking that I'm going to join a yoga class one of these days because they do a really nice job, and that's been a nice upgrade for the wellness department. It's been a nice addition. Finally, other continued improvement, and this is more for myself, things that I want to continue to improve on, is my partnership with the Positive Coaching Alliance. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm very excited about that partnership that we have. Working on creating a leadership council that really meets on a more timely basis, or just to have an exact calendar. Coaching education through the MIA, we've had a lot of new coaches, and the MIA does require to have the coaching education. So what I'd like to do is almost get myself to be trained as a facilitator to teach the coaching education, so then I can just teach the coaches, and then I don't have to pay for a facilitator and for the coaches to get the coaching education. And continued enhancement of the website to kind of improve communication. And I put our trainer, we share her with Mass General, which is great. And I just could always think of more hours for her to be used. And then additional coaches for any of those areas that need it. And then also the idea of the girls' ice hockey team and putting that out there. So again, these are more of things that are always in the back of my mind of how I can improve the athletic department, improve myself as well. I think that's it.
Very thorough as usual.
Extremely thorough.
Sorry for so much time.
Don't apologize. It's fabulous.
All right.
We like thoroughness.
Congratulations on all these innovative things you have done.
Oh, thank you.
They're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I'm very
I'm ready to go back to school.
I'm in a very supportive environment with the administration here and the coaches that I have in place. I'm very, very lucky, and I really do. Every time I walk away from those meetings, I think I'm lucky, and I just smile to myself and think how grateful I am. So it is a great place to be.
Any other comments for Caitlin? I have a couple. Look, go ahead, Barra.
You shoot first.
Me first?
Yeah, you first.
So I've been a little requesting of Caitlin on this communication issue, and I think we have more work we need to do.
Yes, I agree. I 100% agree with that.
First of all, I want to commend you for the presentation because I've been asking for you to come with the presentation, and I learned so much about things you're doing. And if I learned it and I'm somewhat involved, I'm sure many of our parents don't know about all these programs. So I think it's a wonderful awareness of all the stuff that you're doing. And I just think that parents can be so helpful to our success, and look at the Feldmans as one example, and I know there are many. But I've shared with Caitlin that I've gotten a fair amount of noise in my short time here at the high school, and I'm glad Mrs. Myers-Peckel is here because I want her to help us with this. We aren't doing a real good job on communication of changes, and it's hard because it's real time, and there are so many teams, and as Caitlin said, there are different coaches with different styles, and I'm sure I'm naive on how to improve this compared to you, Caitlin. The only thought that I can think of at the moment is maybe there's a set of standard expectations of what the tool will be. I'll throw out one example, and I'm not going to belabor this because I know we'll be on schedule, but one example is a couple times I've provided the coaches personally with email addresses for their rosters. you know, if they should probably get that the day the team is determined, so that they, and
You mean a student emails?
yeah, or parent, whatever they want. But just, coaches have come and said, we need ways to communicate. And parents, I've seen parents, you know, parents will always help if we give them, I've seen parents step up and become the communication liaison for the coach. So the coach can email a parent, and then the parent can get it out. So
yeah, and not to just, and this is where I find this fine line of teaching our own students to take responsibility for their own changes and their own actions, and also then appreciating the parents who are so willing to help. And how do you do that? And that's where, as an educator, I'm thinking, how do I teach our students to take responsibility for their schedules and their life, and you know, and figure that out, and also having that clear expectation. I will say with the parent emails, one thing that when I was looking up Power School, I was looking for something when I came back from maternity leave. I was looking for an email of a parent about our scholar athlete, and I couldn't see it on Power School. So then I asked, and I said, "Do you have those?" And so I went to I went to one of our secretaries, and they said, "Yes, but only I have that." And so I did, and I asked. I said, "Can we all see that?" And Diana was great. I said, "Yes, let's get all that." So I think going forward, it's finding that fine line. Now, I didn't always have access to parent emails, and I encourage, that's why we have these, and I should have put it on there with one of my crazy Excel sheets and blocked off all the names. But what I do is I have an Excel with all the kids who are participating. I have to keep track of all their physicals, because they have to have a physical within the last 13 months. So I keep all their physical dates, plus when they expire on their date, plus their participation forms, but then their email addresses. And so what we're doing now is, what we decided to do is, because everyone kind of as a hush said, this is our expectation, this is what we want passed into us. We will keep track of all the dates of physicals and participation forms and stuff, but you need to provide us with an email contact that the student provides. Now, we also have the new student emails, which we want to incorporate more, and using the students to use that. You know, that I think that's an effective way to deal with students. I think the student end, we can get the students, it's just then sharing that information with the parents and finding a way. And again, I find that it's this fine balance of teaching them the responsibility.
I actually struggle with that a little bit too, because I mean, and I admit, you know, it's a throwback to the old school, but you know, my son's only 30, so it hasn't been that many years since but you know, when he played high school sports, if there was a change in the schedule for that day, you know, like say it happened during the day, he was responsible to get the information. Nobody had cell phones, so you know, he was responsible for hearing from the coach if there was a change in basketball or whatever it was, and then, you know, doing something. I was at work. He couldn't call me and say, "Guess what? I think there's a change." Or have a coach wasn't going to call me or my husband, who was not in the area for work, and say, "Your son's practice this afternoon has changed." So I'm very confused about, other than the coach, we do want to be consistently have the coach have a way to access the students and let them know what's going on in real time, because you know, we've all experienced some of those changes occur that same day. But I personally, and my husband, were never responsible for being the ones to let our son know there was a change. So other than using our student email accounts a little bit more effectively, what is it that we should expect our coaches to do to keep all the kids apprised of the requirements?
Hang on one second. So let me respond, and then we'll go to. So the experience I had was not parents wanting to be communicated with. It was parents volunteering because the coaches were struggling with communicating. So it's not that the parents want their email to necessarily be the one.
Oh.
It was that the coaches weren't getting the word out, so the parents started doing it. And Caitlin and I talked about this, and you know, this may have been a one-off. So this is not something we need to belabor, other than I think if we can have standardized process. And Caitlin and I've talked about, it's hard because coaches are different styles, and
yeah, and that's the hard. You know, and I think trying, and I've talked a lot about with my assistant too, because it drives her crazy sometimes too, is just trying to figure out what the best way. And there's so, you know, I'm just so blessed to have such a great coaching staff, and just trying to kind of impart my organizational style on them, but having it be their own, because everyone has their own different. And so that's the fine line where I don't know if I have the answer. I don't know if my way's the best way. It's what works best for me, and I really like email list. I like communicating through email, then follow up with a phone call, or start with a phone call and follow up with an email. That's the way I like to communicate. But I don't know if that's going to be effective for all And that's where I'm trying to figure. I think that's when we had the discussion. It's now taking a look at and kind of self-reflecting on what works and what doesn't work, and how do you then kind of create the standard expectation without demanding them do certain things which may not work for them and their style.
Let's go Tina and then Marilyn.
Just a thought. I mean, I know, and not all our coaches are teachers, but our kids use Edmodo, and our teachers use Edmodo to, update them on things that, like, they forget something, to tell them something in class, they can check, put something on Edmodo later in the day. I don't know.
Most of our coaches are not teachers.
Yeah, the track team uses.
So I think that's
that's what I'm
sitting
thinking
here
of,
trying to imagine like all the different sports and who coaches and I'm feeling what you're feeling, and what you're saying is that so that would work for this coach because the teacher's here all day in school, but that's not going to work for the next sport because they're not. They're working at another job in an off-site location that maybe they can't always be reached. So I think that's part of why it's a challenge, because every situation is unique.
But can coaches get a student an Office 365 account, or do you have to be an educator?
I think that's one of the things we're moving forward to, is them to all have 365 accounts, and then I can also put their email address on. I'm very protective of them and their personal email addresses, and that's what I use with them. But I don't think that should be out in the public.
Well, and it might facilitate communication between the student and the coach. And I know, my son plays football, and there are many coaches, and sometimes you might tell one coach who you happen to catch that I'm going to be late for practice, or I have a doctor's appointment, but that coach might not necessarily tell the other coaches, and if the other coach is looking for you, they don't know that, Johnny told Coach so-and-so that he wasn't going to be there because he's over there practicing with the offensive lineman or something.
But then I also think for parents, and as a parent, I get a lot of email, and I like talking to parents, so it doesn't bother me, but I get a lot of emails and phone calls from people over, like, what's going on here, and I sometimes don't know, because it's that they made a decision and I'm not aware of. So I think for parents to have that access to that, I think a lot of coaches do give their email address or use a phone number, but I feel more comfortable coming. So we are going to, starting in the fall, sign them all up with and then post those email addresses on our website, so that there can be that communication.
I think that's a good idea.
I think that's got the most promise.
Yes.
Because I think the tricky thing too is that we don't want them to communicate using student cell phones, using that's another challenge, is that we're we do want to protect students' privacy and their confidentiality, and we can't do it. So we don't actually want, say, coaches to have a group text or anything, plus you can't with 100 kids in football anyway. But I think that's the challenge is to use the appropriate technology, but still have it be effective when there's some things that we communicate as adults pretty regularly in smaller groups don't always work. So I think it's more layered and complex than one would think, because and every sport is different and every coaching situation is different. So I think that's got the most promise, because student email addresses are standard, and they will have access to those.
But I did create part of my evaluation system of coaches, and I created my own evaluation. I should have put that, I forgot that I did that. But I did create an evaluation that was a standardized evaluation based on what the teacher evaluation is like. So it is a little bit more nuanced, not just a checklist. And one of them is communication. And because I do feel it's so important, not just with the parents, but also sometimes with me, to have that. So that is something that when we have our end of the year meetings, and I can have that conversation with that coach, and these are my expectations are, and it's constantly working to improve that part of their evaluation system, that part of their evaluation.
I guess my understanding is that when you start a sport, you always fill out the form at the beginning of the year, and they ask for all of our emails, including the parents.
Yes.
And I fill them out. And we also, don't all sports have the booster clubs? Because we always have a parent for the JV and varsity that communicates things. I also know that the coaches communicate with a couple of the sports. They give it to the captains to spread it throughout their team. So that's their job. They're their leaders.
Yes.
And then we all get, like, if you're going to be leaving work early to go to a game, your kid updates you and says, our game was moved till blah, 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 or it was canceled. You don't have to leave work. So I've always had smooth transactions. I don't have any issues with it, so I guess I'm confused what's missing.
Well, I think that there's no standardized, like, even you just
Not all
said,
the
like,
same?
yeah, it's like, well, sometimes boosters will do it, sometimes kids will do it, and that's...
Well, the coach does the boosters for the parents, and the captains do it for the kids, is what I'm saying.
So Marilyn, it sounds like it's effective in that sport.
Right, there's been 2 sports I've been very happy with, so I didn't know. Is it not?
But my issue is it's not consistent.
It's not consistent across the board, is that the problem?
Yeah, and I think that is a problem, yes.
Okay.
And
That's
that's,
what, I guess
Yeah.
I've missed that
you
point,
can
'cause I
go from
haven't
one
had a
sport to
problem.
another and it not be
And-
consistent, and we can't, you know.
Okay, so
with-
you just want all regulated, all on one,
Yeah,
all
not
one
even,
page.
but yeah, yeah, and I think it's just the understanding of the coach and understanding what their expectations are to let, and sometimes it's not just with the parents, it's sometimes with me too, and I, you know, so.
And it can be a change that happens 2 minutes ago
Oh,
on a
absolutely.
field or a bus or.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I know we need to move on, but Steve, you had a comment.
Just real quick and just off this track a little bit, I just wanted to compliment, and I see a lot of value in this Positive Coaching Alliance program. I started looking into it when I got my packet.
Oh, okay,
And
great.
this is cross-curriculum. I mean,
Yes.
you can remove athletics and insert music
Yep.
or chess club, like.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And,
it's great.
and you know, I really like their magic ratio and the teaching the student of what they can control and then how they can learn from it. I hope that as you work with your bosses here and you can develop this and maybe even spread the word a little bit out there to other organizations. I think it's an incredible program as I started reading about it.
That's my goal, and I thank you for that, because I really do feel, whenever you're spending
I mean,
money.
you have your priorities, obviously,
Yeah.
for other things, but this
No,
is
but
an
the
interesting
character stuff
program.
is really great. And if you'd
Yeah.
like to come, I'm setting up my meeting for November, which Melissa will be invited to for my, you're gonna come. You'll be there. But we'll have something in November because it's that downtime. We're trying to, and that's why I'm trying to pick a time for my student athletes to go. And then there'll be another one right before the spring season for all my coaches, not just spring coaches, but all the coaches as well. And then we'll evaluate with them, and it's a great partnership. So they sit down and we talk about things that went well, things that didn't go well, what I need to do on my end, what they can do, and how they can help me with
Well,
that.
thanks for informing us on this. That's
No,
it,
great.
Bruce.
Thank
And
you.
I would
That's all
just say
Thank you.
similarly, I love the fact that you're taking leadership program from music and trying to expand that and even build a class around that.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great idea that probably is not in the athletic director's job description, but that you're doing because you see an opportunity, which I think is terrific.
Well, thank you, and because I see it in and I see it in the and I'm not saying that our athletes aren't leaders, and they're great leaders, but I think there's a really special thing that happens in the music department, and to witness it is to something. Well, what can we do to emulate that in other areas of our school?
Great idea.
So if I can help, I can help, and there's lots of other teachers, not just me. Ian Bain is also helping me with that.
So Caitlin, I think the committee will be, first of all, this is a terrific review, as we said. And I know we went over, but I think it's important because we don't spend a lot of time on athletics, and yet it's such a big part of our culture, and so many students participating. You said more and more students, which is terrific. And I just want to speak on behalf of the committee, and I think you're probably getting the sense, but I think whatever you need, you should come.
Okay.
I mean, we can't just put in the concession stand because you want us to, because we want to.
Oh, come on.
But
No, I'm just kidding.
but if you, I mean, if you
Strike that from the next meeting then.
if you have things you need for the website to improve the communication, or if you need storage, or you and Diana say, you know what, maybe the school committee could help us with this. I think with so many students participating and so many good things going on, I think we'd like to have you bring that to us.
No, and I appreciate that, and I would also, and I hopefully will come back after our captain's conference and even the Positive Coaching Alliance meeting and talk a little bit about what we've done here and share a little bit in athletics. I think sometimes we're in this little world and down in the hole, which we're moving eventually once I get my act together. It's a great. I'm very fortunate, and I know I said that a few times, but I truly mean that. Our students are great, and I'm in a great district that feels very supported. So, for Amy letting me, she's probably like, I want to do a leadership class, and just saying, go ahead, that's great. That is, we're very lucky here.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your time. Sorry if I went too long.
One thing though, which is that my recorder wasn't on. When did you guys create the sports and switch guidelines for the Hockey Mock League?
That was in 2013.
2013. And you were involved in that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. That's all.
All right.
Caitlin, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good meeting.
See you soon.
All right, 2015 Culture and Climate Survey results.
Yes, so let's see. So as I put in the packet, my goal tonight is to not go over every slide in the presentation because I don't think that's necessary. Certainly a lot of reading material for you to read. As you know, I don't know if people at home know, we use K-12 Insight, which is a company for pretty much all of our surveys, and that's what they do professionally. And they not only launch the survey and administer it, but they also analyze our results. And so we don't have to rely on ourselves to say, what does this all mean? They'll do it for us, and then we have a conference call with them, we go over our results, but they are the ones that really are the professionals and say, this is what we see in your results, which is really, really helpful. So this year, as I put in the cover memo, really what they said pretty strongly was our overall message in 5 years. This is our 5th year of administering the Culture and Climate Survey. So the first one was literally just a month or two before I became superintendent. So this is our 5th consecutive Culture and Climate Survey. And they said our overall message is really one of stability and growth. And I really took those words to heart, so that everything else that we looked at in our specific survey results said, gee, that actually is true. Stability and growth. We're a very stable school system in terms of how people perceive the services and the things that are offered here, and yet we're experiencing growth in several areas. So just to remind people, our cultural and climate surveys are perception surveys. So they really assess how people perceive what's going on in the schools. So it's not a survey like how many of this, how many courses did your child take? It's not data in terms of concrete data, but it is perception data. How do the teachers feel about what's going on in the school? How do the parents feel? And how do the students in our middle and high school, how do they perceive what's happening? So some of the highlights that K-12 created for us is that 9 out of 10 participants, regardless of the stakeholder group, so it didn't matter if they were teachers or parents or students, that 9 out of 10 participants rate the school system as good or excellent. And that we've had that sort of positive data for the last 3 years. Our overall stability or positive growth was found in all 5 survey areas, and the 5 general areas that are surveyed, and there are several different components of each. The first area is academic preparation, how well we prepare students to be successful students in school and beyond. Student support, parent involvement, safety and behavior, school operations, and school leader interactions. We've got a couple of those together, that's okay. Several key strengths were identified, including the overall safety of students and how well we support student learning. So for example, some of the summary comments before we get to some specific slides that I would like to talk about, and then what I would like to do, if that's okay with you, is just highlight a few things on a few slides, and then whatever questions you have, we can certainly address specifically. Perfect. So in the area of academic preparation, the parents' rating for all of the dimensions that are subtopics in that area, all of the dimensions increased with the parent perception survey, and were 95% or higher. So that was pretty significant. So parents feel we're really preparing their kids well academically. The students' rating for academic preparation also increased in almost all dimensions from last year. The only 2 exceptions for students were real-world connections and being challenged at school. So those stayed in the range. So those are 2 areas we're going to look at. The student, but all the other areas, students' perceptions increased for the positive. Some of the strengths that teachers identified were curriculum instruction and assessments are aligned to support student learning. Most students respect teachers. They enjoy teaching at school, and that the principal makes decisions in the best interest of students. Some of the strengths that parents identified in their survey data was that they feel very welcome in their child's school, that their teachers were available to discuss their child's learning needs, and that their child was being prepared to do well in the next grade level. The students identified the following strengths. They feel their teachers are telling them what they need to do well in school. They feel safe at school. Their guidance counselor helps them select courses that prepare them for the future, and that they have all the textbooks and materials and resources they need for classes. We did ask new questions this year about guidance services, and I will definitely go to that slide so we can talk about what we asked about guidance that we hadn't been asking before. The interesting part was that parents and students have very different perceptions about the issue of bullying and threatening behaviors than parents and students. It should say just parents. Parents have very different perceptions about the issue of bullying and threatening behavior than students and teachers do. And I can certainly take you to those slides. Teachers and students are reporting that bullying and threatening behaviors, bullying being ongoing incidents of harassment in a series, that's how we define bullying. Teachers and students report that bullying is occurring less often than in previous years, while parents still believe it's an increasing problem. So again, this is perception data. The two stakeholder groups that are actually in school all day long, the teachers and the students, are agreeing that it's occurring less frequently, and they both understand their own common definition, because we pretty much educate students pretty well on it. So their understanding of what bullying and threatening behaviors are, and we're very careful about defining those, they feel that that's occurring less often and that's going down, so we see some great success. Parents, I think, it's hard to explain perception data, but not being in the school, they may still think it's a problem. It certainly is still a problem in society, and sometimes our perceptions are influenced by what we see in the media, in the newspaper, on the news, and that is still a very worrisome topic for parents. So their perception of how much of a problem it is does not match, though, what teachers and students are saying is actually happening. So that's actually a good gap in perception to have, because it would be worse if the parents thought, oh, it's getting better, and people are actually in the school seeing it or saying it's getting much worse. So we actually took that as a good sign, which it is.
Debbie, I just want to pause for a minute. To me, this is like a report card of how, certainly not just the committee, but you and your team and the staff is all doing. And this is a great report card. I'm really, I'm very pleased with what this says.
How many schools do this? Do we know? Culture and climate surveys. I mean,
how many other districts?
Other districts.
Not as many do it in such detail.
Right. I mean, we've been very conscientious about this.
Yes, we certainly, these are very thorough. You've gotten them yourself to fill them out. We ask you a lot of questions about your experience, and we ask kids a lot about their experience. And I think that to us this is valuable because we collect our hard data, what's happening, how many courses the kids taking, what the student-teacher ratio is, how's our testing data looking, what's our assessment saying, how well is our curriculum aligned. So we do a lot of that really concrete work. But all of that is for naught unless people perceive that it's a good place to work, it's a good place to be, our teachers are working collaboratively together, our kids are getting a good education, parents have confidence in the schools. So, we always say, perception is reality. And so I think that our hard work is only reinforced or bolstered when we feel that people see that good things are happening and they feel that they're staying good. We're not seeing up and down. This year we feel good, next year we don't. As we're very stable and still growing in how people perceive the district. So I took it really well.
Well, I mean, when we did this strategic plan the first time around, our goal was to collect this data.
Right,
remember that? And I remember that, and we did do it, and we kept the goal to feel valued, safe, and have a voice. We kept the goal, the exact same goal, but we used the data that we had collected to inform the objectives going forward. And I think it's very important. We discussed it at length when we did the strategic planning process, the second go-around, about keeping the goal and continuing the surveys. And I do think it's extremely important. Perception data is very useful in informing our decisions here and your decisions in your office. So.
And I'm glad you reminded me about that phrase, and have a voice, because this is part of people having a voice.
And our students, as well as our teachers and our parents. And I do think it is interesting, the perceptions. I think there is one slide in here where parents think they're volunteering a lot, and students think that the parents aren't doing anything. Right. So,
but
well,
you
no,
came
not
closer
anything,
together this year.
It
other
is a little
years,
closer.
Parents were reporting high levels of, I make sure my student does their homework every night. And kids in other years were saying, not so much. But this year, the parents and the students were actually very close together in their perception. So we're like, that's good.
And if you just say you're doing your homework right, and they say, yeah, that counts, right?
Well, it always counted in my house,
verify that.
It counted in my house.
It counts? Oh, thank goodness. That's how I do it.
Even if it's all a falsehood, like, do you have any homework? I'm all set. I mean, that counted for me.
Yeah, I live in the lie over there.
No, that's all right. I was with you. I'm your role model for that. But I think that that's the important point. And it is possible that because now everything is online and Edmodo, and the parents and the students all can see the homework pretty consistently, that it's easier for parents to make sure their child's doing the homework because it's more visible. So I think all of the things we're doing together actually has some synchronicity to it.
Sure.
So that's one of the things I thought about when I saw that, oh, finally, the students do agree that their parents are helping them, be more responsible for homework. So I think we're giving parents tools to make that job easier than it was in my generation. But kids don't really want you to do that anyway, just saying. So in terms of what we'd like to talk about tonight and highlight, I'm going to have Amy just jump to a certain slides. So if you go to slide 4, and then I just picked the ones I thought were worthy of, well, we'll go back to any ones that you want. So our participation, we had a total of 1,678 stakeholders taking our surveys. So our participation rate was 62% for our teachers, 23% for parents. We would like to see that go up a little bit next year. So parents, if you're watching at home, don't ignore your culture and climate survey because we actually listen to you. And students participate at a 70% rate, so that was great. We do have the students do it in school, but you can't always, their courses, especially at the high school, you can't always ensure that everybody gets into a lab to do a survey because, believe it or not, their academic coursework comes before other things. If we could then go to slide 7. Our perceptions of education quality. So we had 100% of participating teachers, 92% of participating parents, and 87% of participating students rated their school as excellent or good. And so that's really important to us. We don't expect 100% of students to always think that their school is really good, because sometimes they don't feel that way, or maybe they've had a really tough week and maybe things haven't met their needs exactly. So that's pretty close though altogether. If you could go to slide 10. This is dimensions by all stakeholders. So of all the dimensions that were surveyed, how do teachers, students, and parents feel about the exact same issue? So one of the things that I thought was interesting is parent involvement. So if you look at this third line, I thought this was fantastic. So 91% of teachers agree or strongly agree that parent involvement and all its dimensions that go into that collective rating is really good. So teachers are acknowledging the parent involvement and the strength of that and the positive aspect of that in the school system, as well as 87% of parents. So teachers and parents have a shared positive view of parent involvement in the Foxborough Public Schools. That was a thumbs up for me. 67% of students agree or strongly agree about parent involvement, but like I said, they don't always want you there anyway. So I think, I just love to see that teachers and parents are both acknowledging that they feel that's really positive, because we all know that parent involvement is a key part of a successful school district. So that's their perception. I love that on that. So parent involvement is strong and recognized by the stakeholders. If you go to slide, you go into that one? Nope. Let's see, we've got a lot, but I think in the interest of time, we can always go back. Let's jump to slide 20. I want to talk about students for a minute. It's really important to me tonight. So if you can see in the right column, this percent change column has to do with all of the data that we've collected over the past year. So if you missed it in the slide data, how the K-12 Insight Company calculates the change, whether it's 0, which means not much change statistically, a positive change is a plus, a negative change is a minus. Anything that's -1, or -1 or 2, or +1 and 2 isn't that big of a change. So if you think about plus or minus 2 as kind of the same, that's okay. Anything more than that really indicates a direction. So if you want to know how that's calculated, it does explain it back on slide 3, but it's not really necessary to try to explain that to the public. But let's talk about what students said. And this slide speaks to the area of student support. So you can see that in the top dark blue bar. So this is what students felt about how they're supported in their learning. So you can see that, except for one where it didn't change very much, that's courses and activities offered at school are interesting. Kids felt about the same this year as they felt in the past few years. But in general, they had more positive views of several of the dimensions. So when it comes to the first one, there's a teacher, counselor, or other staff member at school I can talk to about school problems. That increased in their perception with a +2. The second one was really significant. There's a teacher, counselor, or other staff member at school that I can talk to about personal problems. So these two questions are the same, except for I can talk to them about school problems. They kind of have always felt that they can. And if you look at the second one, though, I can talk to somebody about my personal problems. Back 4 years ago, this was something that we wanted to pay attention to, whether they had a comfort level talking to somebody about personal problems. And that has increased from a baseline of 59% to 72%. So that's pretty good. And all of the talk we've had at this table about mental health, social, emotional well-being, if you look at anywhere across the country, that's really becoming, you know, there's a lot of social pressure on kids. There's a lot more going on that they have to deal with as teenagers than certainly in my generation and certainly my children. So I think that this was one of the most important things that we wanted to see some movement on. And I was very pleased to see that. And then the other dimensions have shown some increase. Are they, do students and teachers, do teachers and staff treat students fairly, regardless of backgrounds and differences? Continued positive increase to that. Do they feel encouraged by their teachers to do the best they can? Can they talk to the principal or another administrator when they have a problem at school? So those are very important to us, and do students feel supported? Do they have people to go to so that they feel?
So that number is a great, it's trending up and it's stable, right? It's around 72%.
Yeah.
And excuse my possible insensitivity, but what number do we want to be at with that? And do we always want our kids to always discuss personal matters at school? And I mean nothing by that except a benign question.
So there are dozens and dozens of dimensions within the survey. We don't have, except for a very few that we talk to in terms of our school or district goals, we don't have, I don't want to say artificial, we don't have artificial numbers for each of these many dimensions that we're trying to shoot for. But I think that's a really good point. There are many situations that either the parents or the students don't feel like school personnel are the right ones to talk about personal problems, and they may not be. So we want this to be a fairly high perception, which I think it is getting to now. We have almost 3/4 of the kids saying,
right. No,
yes,
it's a
I
big
have somebody
jump.
at school.
I mean,
but we don't ever want, that's a great question, because we don't ever expect that to be 100%, because there are so many situations that that's not appropriate and or comfortable for a student, and that's okay. Because they may have people who are affiliated with their religious institution that they feel more comfortable with. There may be outside counselors, there may be family members, and that's all well and good. That's the way it should be. So I think that we've got something we're very happy with, and if we could maintain it at that perception level, we'd be.
yeah, I mean, it shows a trusting environment and that
Yes.
there's a loving and trusting environment there.
Right.
But again, thank you, Deb. Thanks.
But you're right.
You
You're
answered
going to
my
have some
question.
kids who say no, thank you, and don't want to. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say no to that,
Yeah.
and that's great.
Thanks.
Sarah, did you have a quick question on this?
Yes, I did. I'll make this quick, but for whatever reason, the change numbers there don't seem to line up mathematically.
Right.
except
Go
in the
back to
column.
slide 3,
Okay.
and it will explain how this company calculates change.
Okay. 'Cause
Slide
like,
3.
The +2 doesn't look like it's, or whatever.
Slide 3.
Slide 3. Okay, excellent. Did we go over how slide 3 works?
No, I mentioned if you need, you can get a physical.
I have the packet, so I'll just.
Slide 3.
Okay, got it. Just
What happens, Bear, is we get the packets ahead of time.
Yeah.
So we've got an opportunity, you haven't seen it, so that's why you haven't.
Excellent.
Yeah. But you're right, the math wouldn't lead you to the conclusion unless you understood the process.
Because it's almost like a rolling average, if I could just try to describe it briefly. We're not looking for a change year to year, because you're going to see this all the time anyways, different groups of kids at different levels. So you're going to see a little bit of this. What we want to know is what's the trend. Is it when you, so if you look at slide 3.
The trend, it's probably a trend of a median over of like its set number of years. The median trend over 3
If you
years.
would like me to read it so that we can move on, I would
No,
be
it's all right.
happy
No,
to.
I think I got it. I can
You don't
read
have
slide
to,
3.
Debbie, don't.
It's
I have
very
no doubt.
specific. It's an algebraic formula right there for you.
I've got it. I have
All right.
the packet.
All right, if we could go to slide 21. Student support at the high school. These were our brand-new guidance questions. So everything you see here are considered our baseline for new questions we have not asked before, because we're particularly interested in these things and wanted to, rather than say, I get good advice from guidance, which wasn't specific enough for us, that we added these this past spring. So their guidance counselor helps me, my guidance counselor helps me select courses that will prepare me for my future college and career plans. So that's 88% agree or strongly agree. Guidance department staff, through group guidance and individual meetings, have assisted me with the college application process. Now, understand that all students, 9 through 12, are taking this. So not everybody, feels that what they got through group guidance is preparing them for college yet, although I just saw a group of freshmen right there in that lab being trained on the Naviance software and understand what it means for them and putting in their profile. So I saw freshmen in September of freshman year already getting their profiles going and understanding how they can look at colleges and how they can look at who gets accepted there. So it doesn't mean, though, that at the end of freshman year that you would define that as preparing me for college application, but it is. So the guidance department provides helpful information regarding graduation requirements and academic rigor. That was 85%. Guidance department is available for academic as well as social and emotional support, 82%. The guidance department provides me with information and assistance regarding standardized tests, and there's a whole myriad of them, 72%. So we've got some really strong baseline perception data, and we'll see what happens in the future, but that actually was pretty good feedback for year one. So that's why you don't see change, because those are brand new to us this year. If you go to slide 23, this is teachers. This whole slide shows teacher perception of parent involvement, and as we said before, that teachers have a very positive perception of parent involvement, and I just thought you might want to get a look at the 7 dimensions that they have to rate that are amalgamated together to make that overall rating. Of particular note, we have several really high change numbers here. And if we could keep them at this level, it would be really great. And that's, parent support when addressing an academic problem with a child, for example, regular communication with parents about their child's academic achievements, and parent input is used to improve instruction at the school. Had a great change.
This is kind of our parent report card, and I would say kudos to our parents.
Yes. So if we could keep that there, that'd be great, because they're all pretty high in the 90s, and our average was pretty high at 91. And then I think when you look at, if you just go to the next slide, I wasn't going to spend much time on this, but if you look at the parent perceptions of parent involvement, that's pretty stable. They're pretty high ratings and pretty stable over time. Hence the stability and growth overall message. If you go to slide 27. Don't want to ignore areas that we're looking a little bit more at. And so when we get a slide like this with multiple dimensions about safety and behavior, and this is teachers' perceptions, and then we see a few things that are in the minus. So we've got some great pluses. Bullying and threatening behavior is rare in the school. We had definitely a gain there. And others look either a small increased change in the positive or negative. But then we had one that really stood out, which is whether school administrators consistently enforce rules for student conduct. So the good thing, and when we see something like that, is we have so much data, and we can dig much deeper in the information that we're provided with. So we don't have to do follow-up or find out what's wrong. We have lots of comment boxes. We have lots of raw data that we get, that we parse through. So when we parse through this, and this is the district-wide results, which is what we do. But we also get school-level results. So we can take a look at all the schools and say, is there one particular location? Is it more than one? What is going on? But one of the things that this particular question revealed, and Amy did her deep dive, and then we discussed it together. I don't want to say it's amusing, but I think Melissa will be amused. A lot of this was about school administration enforcing rules for student conduct related to the dress code at the high school. Look at Melissa nodding. So there's always a lot of discussion about the dress code, and you can feel free to weigh in. So that was a hot topic last spring. Would you say?
Extremely hot topic.
Pun intended.
Go ahead.
When we got told, well, we used to be able to wear tank tops with, of course, the 2 to 3 finger rule, but this year we got told that we can't show our shoulders, and that threw everyone off guard. It's 90 degrees outside, we can't wear tank tops. This is not going to go over well. But then teachers would wear tank tops, and so it'd conflict, and it'd be that's not fair. A teacher can wear a tank top, but we cannot. So then people would still wear tank tops, and then some teachers wouldn't enforce it and others would not, due to the fact, because if the teachers are wearing them, then they shouldn't say anything to us. And it is 90 degrees, and I must say, I'm sorry, but like we should be able to wear tank tops. Like if 3 finger rules, of course, but.
So we need to revisit that because it was a hot topic. I heard a lot about this last year, right around survey time, from students and from teachers. And I think the inconsistent enforcement of that and what was proper and what wasn't, and
But
who's
I
calling
mean,
who out on it, that was a really big discussion. So, and we have lots of comments, so if you don't agree or you don't have good ratings, feel free to put comments in. Myriads of comments about the high school dress code. So, you know, we expect to try to address that a little bit, but that's a better problem to have, I will say, than what this could have indicated. But it's still a problem that needs to be solved.
Did you have a quick comment, Joe?
Well, last year when I was wearing a tank top, no one could see my shoulders. It was right here. No one could see that part. It was appropriate. It was only like right here. Miss Philby, someone asked me, "Do you have enough?" I brought another shirt to be safe.
Good thinking.
Well, that's a good idea to
Good
bring another
thinking.
shirt though,
Always
because
bring extra.
we know we want to be fair to everybody. So if it's that finger width rule, then that it has to be for boys and girls. You can't say it's good for one and not for the other. So this is a multi-dimensional hot topic.
Yes.
All right, duly noted. Thank you.
So if we can go to slide 29, which is students. How do they feel about their safety and behavior? I really liked this slide as well, and I wanted to point it out, because students have a +9 change, which is terrific, in saying that bullying and threatening behaviors is rare at this school. And I really credit a lot of that to the students who, I think we have, as we always say, we have great kids here, but they also take responsibility. I think they're mature, and you know, they take their role seriously with others and how they present themselves and how well they represent us. So that's been great. We had a great change. Students do not use drug and alcohol at school. Notice it says drugs and alcohol. Not that, you know, let's be honest, drugs and alcohol are going to be a problem at every high school, but the fact that large groups of students are reporting it's not a problem at school is terrific, because that's the environment we're in charge of. They feel safe on the school bus and while waiting at the school bus stop, and this is middle and high school students. So this was an important thing, if you remember years ago when we weren't sure, and we didn't have the perception data, and there was sort of a feeling that maybe a lot of safety and behavior concerns were on the bus, but we never had data to show that. So it was the perception of parents that the bus might be, you know, not a safe place. We've never actually collected data that shows it, and this time around, it's sort of a real period at the end of the sentence. The buses are a safe place to be. Not that there aren't bus incidents, but people feel safe on the bus, not much is happening on the bus. So kudos to our bus drivers and our transportation department, you know, and our kids. So, I thought for our own amusement, we look at slide 31. You know how many discussions we had when the federal guidelines for school lunches came in and how the portions were minuscule, and we were all in a tizzy about that. But we've had some really good change in that, and the teachers are reporting here that healthy food is served at the school. We've had some great increases in just the quality in terms of health, overall health of the food. Let's see. The parents, if you look at the next slide, are also saying that healthier food is now served than it was 4 years ago. If you look at students, they are also reporting that fresh, high-quality food is served in the school, and you gotta love that at least they're saying they are now getting enough to eat at the school, because that was a problem with the federal guidelines. So I was happy with that. It wasn't going in the negative. They're getting enough to eat. There's more options. They can add healthy alternatives that fill them up without violating the federal guidelines, and great results on the fact that students feel the school is clean and well-maintained. Working climate control, it's not our fault, by the way, it was really hot this month of September, but good lighting and well-kept grounds.
I would just say, in fairness, while the trends may be up on the students' perspective of the food, the overall satisfaction level isn't quite as high as some of the other areas, right?
Correct. It isn't, but I don't think anybody's going to be raving about school lunch in my lifetime. But I mean, unless we could have it like a restaurant and not have federal guidelines.
There you go. There you go.
Well, we
I'd
kinda
just,
did
I'd just like
before,
to give a
that's what
shout out
caused
to
all the
Salisbury
commotion.
Steak and say that it rules and long live the
Remember,
Salisbury
and the
steak.
gravy and all, yeah, that.
The gravy flavored gravy product.
I know.
Yes, it was
Sorry,
great.
can't get it anymore.
Bring it back.
If you go to slide, where are we now? Let's see, 37. Teachers. This is teachers' perceptions of faculty relations and support. A big part of our strategic planning and other things focused on, are we giving, and our district goals, are we giving teachers time enough to collaborate? And we've worked really hard. We're still not there. We still need more collaboration time for teachers, but we've really tried to get creative and work really hard. And there's a +4 change in teachers reporting that they have time available to collaborate with colleagues. Progress, but not there yet.
With this slide, I had written next to support is available to help me incorporate computers and other technology into instruction. This goes hand in glove with our teaching and learning highlight for tonight. I would expect that next year we will see our numbers go up in several lines here, but
Me too.
particularly that one.
Because remember last year, we had Julia going between the middle and the high school, which is huge.
Right.
And Darlene goes between 3. So I am
Adding
expecting
one more
that.
is going to make a difference, absolutely. Plus, they have had that much more time to get comfortable with some of the tools and have more PD on it. So I really think that's going to go up.
And this is one of my favorites. 99% of teachers reported that they really enjoy teaching at their school.
I circled
That is a really important point for me, that this be a good place to work professionally. The job is hard enough. And if they don't feel like they're working at a good place, it's really, really much harder. So I think that's a good place to start, and that they really enjoy working at their school. And I think kids feel that too, when people like to come to work and like being at their school. That attitude certainly carries forward in what they offer to kids every day. So. We also had an increase in teachers reporting that they felt the administrator responds to their concerns in a professional manner, whether or not he or she agreed with my view. That was 97%. That's important to us as a professional organization, that we deal with things courteously, professionally, respectfully, while listening, but not always agreeing.
Yep.
And let's see, if you would keep going until we get to middle school transition, because if you remember, not so many years ago, when Dr. Martis was the superintendent, I was the assistant, middle school transition was a hot topic here at this table, remember? So, and we spent a couple of years really working on transition and coming up with some creative ideas every year to try new things. And lo and behold, here we are, several years later, and we have +8 for my child was provided with useful help for the change from elementary to middle school. And that the middle school staff, as a +7, was available to help my child as they began middle school. And we've got the majority saying that the child knew what to expect as a middle school student, which happens in 4th grade, knowing what to expect. So that was a good slide. We're now working on high school transition, and as you can see, that we've got some good data in that 80% of the parents felt that the child was provided useful help with the change from middle school to high school. So that was great. The second part we're a little bit more puzzled by, which is the high school staff being available to help my child as he or she began middle school. That was 70%. So we're not really sure why people feel their child got useful help, but they weren't available. So that's not quite gelling. We need to do a little deeper. The comments weren't really that helpful in figuring that out. It could just be that's what happened. That's how people felt, I'm not sure. But if you look at the last bar, my child knew what to expect as a high school student. This is key, that going from 8th grade into the high school, they know what's going to be expected of them. And 96% of parents agreed or strongly agreed that the child did know. So that's why the data point in the middle is perplexing. The child got useful help. Yes, they know what to expect as a high school student, but they're not sure if people were available to them.
We didn't ask the kids this one. This was just for parents of 9th graders?
It was just for parents.
I know I answered it, but
Yeah.
as a parent.
That's just a parent.
I had written next to the same thing, where's the disconnect?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I get it, but it would be interesting to see what the 9th graders themselves thought.
Yeah.
of this
And don't
particular
forget, these are the parents of the current sophomores.
Yes.
So perception.
It's perception.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so. But all in all, it was a good overall result. And we asked lots of questions. What events do you attend? We get lots of information, just so people know. What events do you go to, whether it's school committee meetings, school plays, art and music presentations, sporting events, other types of school events, PTO or PTA meetings, How do you like to be communicated with? What are your big priorities? We ask an awful lot of information through this survey that's very helpful for us. So that would be what I wanted to highlight. What would you like to talk about in addition to those?
Anyone?
I think Debbie hit all of the points that I had comments on. I don't have anything else I want to ask. Thank you.
That's a good report. I remember struggling, thinking, what questions are we going to make up? How do we know what questions to ask? And the very first, and it's come to this
really
in 4
great to deal
years.
with.
Well, I think it's great information, and it does, I mean, it tells us what we're doing well, and it does point us in directions where we need improvement, and that's why we continue to improve, because we're focusing on the areas that do need to be addressed. So I think it's great. Very helpful.
Well said.
Anybody else?
I just think one of the things that Becky mentioned before is how many other districts do this. I really do not know of other districts that go in as depth as we go and ask the questions, because many times they may not want to know the answers to that. And I think that we ask a lot of really hard questions.
But it took hours to set this up.
Well, the company does do that, but it takes a lot of time when we do conference calls, because we want we want the same questions we asked last year, because we want to continue dipstick, but we ask them to add new questions. We ask them often to analyze it in a different way, or say on this one, can you give us more, can you really dive a little deeper and tell us what are the themes in the comments, because there could be hundreds of comments. So what are the themes you're seeing in the comments? We get that as well. We discuss that, if there are any themes. Hence the high school hot topic of dress code.
I mean, there was over 500 comments from the middle school alone, and reading through those, you know, some of them are funny, but you get the themes and patterns that run through, and the same thing at the high school. It really does back up some of the numbers that you see.
Yeah. I know when we were doing the strategic plan, when we were this was the goal that I was working on, and I know I looked at online at a lot of other towns' strategic plans. Very few have a goal that centers around culture and climate, never mind a survey to ask parents, teachers, and students what they're thinking. So I still think, I thought at the time we started this process it was very important. I'm glad we're continuing it. I'm glad we're using this data to inform our choices going forward.
Only other two observations I had, and you know me, as I said at the beginning, I'm thrilled with the report card. I take this as a report card, it may be an informal one of how we're doing, but I always good to great, great to greater. It'll be interesting to see one of the charts, chart 7, splits down how many say excellent and how many say good. And I'd love to see us continue to figure out strategies at this table to get more of the goods to excellence. And I know it's a public school system, and I know we serve a lot of needs, and we do a lot of things, and we do it at a very good cost to the town. But that's a chart that I spend a little bit of time on thinking.
Which one was that, Bruce?
Just 7, Bevy. You know, we're lumping in the results as so many percentage say excellent or good. But if you break down how many are the excellents and how many are the goods, you know, I'd like to make it a goal of the committee, of the table, to figure out how do we get more parents to feel excellent, as an example. So that might be something, and so just strategies to work on that. And I don't want us to talk about that now.
Well, we actually do. It's so hard to capture how much data we get, because it can be, I don't want to say it's overwhelming, because I'm overwhelmed by almost anything, but it's time consuming. We do say, if you didn't rate it excellent, what can we do to get a better rating for you next year?
Oh, well, that'd be interesting to look at. Okay, good.
You can look at it all you want. But that's an interesting now, some people don't bother. It's like, nope, that's my rating, I don't want to say anything. But, you know, one person who responded out of a couple hundred, you know, but it's interesting. We didn't come up with anything specific, like, wow, you know, 30 people are saying we need to do this. So it hasn't pointed in any one direction yet, but it could next year.
I also think a lot of people don't mark things as excellent unless they think that you have no room to improve.
Yeah, well, sure.
Some people just don't like
A lot of people have that philosophy.
Right.
They don't.
Yeah.
It's
excellent means perfect.
Yeah,
and people like to leave that leeway.
You're right, and so I don't change how I feel about the overall results based on this, and yet I think it's our job, if we sit at this table, to always pursue that excellence. So that's one chart, and then the other one, and I can't find it in all this data again right now, but was a survey of the students saying, I'm excited about going to school. And as you would imagine, that's not a very high number.
No.
And I'm not sure, I mean, this is a naive Bruce again, but But you know, things that will help with that, if there are such things, I mean, all the technology investment that we're doing, you know, and this is a national challenge, right? But students who feel engaged in their learning like coming to school, and one of the ways they get engaged is through technology. So I think that's a good way to.
I love that comment.
Naive, Bruce?
Maybe, because I think that excited, like going to school, and excited are two different things. So I don't know if I've met very few kids that are really excited to go to school. Do you know any that are really excited to go to school?
I don't live with any.
So
For social reasons.
I think you can.
For social reasons.
Are you
right, Melissa?
excited?
I love
school.
Well, but if you think about it, school is where you found your friends. It's like the
Right.
social aspect. Like you have a social aspect and you have a learning aspect. If you like here at the high school, we have great teachers that like. One of our superlatives will like motivate you on a Monday morning. And we have teachers here at Foxborough High that motivate you on a Monday morning, that get you excited to like be in school. And then on top of that, like I remember towards the end of the summer, I was excited to go back because I miss my friends I haven't seen. And then when you go back to school, you see them, and then you see your motivated Monday teachers, and then you mix that together, and like usually you're having a good day. I mean, it's great.
You have a great group, though. You really do. They're all really close.
I love my grades so much.
All right, Debbie, that's a great report. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think we do want kids to be engaged. I like that. But whether they enjoy being at school, I don't know how many would mark excited as the word. Because sometimes excitement is more about whatever you're doing socially. But I don't know.
Well, maybe we should get K-12 Insight to change the wording in that one.
Yeah, then we
Something a
can't.
little
Then
more
we can't
meaningful.
compare it to past. So, but we could ask and add another one.
All right, let's move on. So now we have the Coordinated Program Review Report for ELE.
So this is the fourth and final report that we received from the Department of Ed. Although this visit took place back last November in 2014, we've just now received this report from them on English language learning. And out of the 18 criteria that they assessed, which took place by looking at tons and tons of documents, interviews with teachers, administrators, even parents of ELL students, etc., there were two areas for improvement here. And the first one of those has to do with program placement and structure. So just to give a little context, we have one English language learner teacher for the entire district. And we have English language learners in all 5 of our schools. So she is very busy. She is in all 5 schools every day.
Oh my gosh. Is there time?
Well, that's
Well, you may
that's
be hearing us discuss that in a few months.
And that's where this criteria really speaks to. So based on English language learner students, ELL students, they take MCAS or PARC, whatever the test is, and they also take the access test, which assesses their level of English proficiency. And based on those levels, the Department of Ed has guidelines of how much ESL instruction that they should have based on their language proficiency. Well, if you only have one teacher that's servicing 5 schools, and at this point in time we have 29 ELL students, you can imagine that we're not meeting what they're setting as guidelines. So as a corrective action here, where it's partial implementation, it means that we need to explore opportunities for increasing additional instructional hours for our students. And our student population, it has grown. Just to kind of give you an idea, 3 years ago we had 14 students.
Wow.
And in addition to our ESL teacher teaching those students, any student that moves in during the year, and then all of our kindergartners that are enrolled that have another language besides English, she then has to assess them on top of that. And that can go from 30 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, depending on their level of English proficiency.
So they could be proficient students who don't need services, but if on the intake form it says what language is spoken at home, if anything other than English is written down, then that triggers, as it should, the assessment. So they could end up not needing services, but that also adds to her caseload, which has doubled.
Right. So we've seen that number continue to increase, as well as the number of students that she's assessing. So that is something that we need to look at and take into consideration as far as looking at the teacher that's servicing our ELL students. So that was the first area. The second one was formal program evaluation of our English language learner program, although continually we talk about it with principals and I work closely with our ELL teacher and look at the data. They have and it's all new forms this year, and there's a renewed interest, I think, on some of this based on the sheltered English immersion new requirement for teachers for certification, that they have to all either have an endorsement for sheltered English immersion, or they have to have professional development points in that area, regardless of whether they've had an ELL student in their class or not. So the corrective action there for us is to put together a team which will look at all of our data very specifically, use all of the forms, their new forms that they would like us to use, and go through that process, and really then look at any program improvements that we need to make.
And we're going to do that together with our crew, because it's really time to take a closer look at that program, especially given the doubling of the population. We still have low numbers, but it's the fact that it's gone from it's twice as much as it was 3 years ago is certainly something that needs attention.
Is there a way to forecast what that number will look like 3 years from now?
No, because it could be the same. I mean,
Or could it go half
down?
again?
It could.
Right. There's no predictors.
It doesn't seem to be going in that direction.
And they're all different languages. I think I've mentioned before, we have 9 different languages, and if you include the dialects of Indian, they're even more than that. So it's a diverse group.
So Amy, do you need any support from us now? I mean, it sounds like there might be a budget analysis that'll come up, but I know the second one here talks about a full report by January 4th.
And that's the date we've set for ourselves that I'll put forward to the Department of Ed. It could be that they give us longer, but we really want to tackle this head on and look at the number and the data because of the budget implications. So we can bring that report back to you and let you know exactly what we have found through that evaluation.
We talked about that date the other day and decided to keep that as a hard date, because you see our first iteration of the budget in December, and you'll likely see us expect to put something in there, whether it's a 1 or a 0.5 or whatever it is. We don't know yet, but we'll know more as we conduct our evaluation. We'll know more about what we would be including for your consideration. But certainly if we complete the report by January 4th, then at the second meeting where you consider the budget, which is our first meeting in January, then we will have all of the report done and would present it at that meeting, and then you could adjust if you needed to based on that. But I don't think much would change between December and January, because you get the budget typically just before the holiday break.
Okay. Steve?
Is there any assistance the state will give us as a stopgap, and do we have this problem not just in, this isn't a black eye. This is something that needs to be fixed, and the water's coming in faster than we can pump it out in some cases. Is there a regional support network that we have around, and are other school districts, say in this area or socioeconomic similarity, experiencing the same problem, so they can send people around to help our present on-hand staff?
Well,
the
easiest question to answer
is
is there any financial support for this? And the answer is absolutely no. In fact, this is probably one of the biggest unfunded mandates that have ever occurred back since question 3 was on the ballot about English language instruction.
Is this something we go to the State House with and say, help us,
they've never funded
help
any part of it.
ourselves?
There's
Yeah.
more and more regulation around it, which is good for children, but there's never been any financial support for it. So,
And it must be a huge issue in some of the urban districts.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
That's why
So
I'm
I
saying
would say
focus
other
it in just
districts
in here.
like us
Yeah.
are very similar to us in that they have what we're called a low incidence district. So there's not a large incidence,
Right.
but it's really difficult for low incidence districts to meet the expected time on learning. I don't know of any that do. I worked in a bigger district that had a huge population with 6 full-time ELL teachers, and we still couldn't meet the exact hours that they have in there because they're pretty significant. So most places are in the position we are, which is you provide good service, but it's probably not enough. And so we're trying to get to close enough to enough. The whole idea of regional support doesn't exist because we have to employ our own people. We can't have, I'll call it itinerant people with access to our student information.
Sure.
So it really has to be somebody that we employ. So the solution is really
Mm-hmm.
here. To make a move toward a more optimal program,
Okay.
not perfection.
Right. Now, that insight was important, because again, the privacy and, thank you.
So this is just an FYI for now.
Yes, and then we'll jump into looking at lots of
Action.
different things into action, and then come back and let you know what our findings are.
I will say though, let's talk about how talented our ELL teacher. She's
Yeah.
been with us this is her 3rd year. She's amazing.
There's only
She's-
2 out of 18 criteria that
She
need
is,
to be
she is
addressed, so
absolutely
that's
amazing.
very
If you could
impressive.
see what she does for those kids and how much she cares and her intensity, she is urgent in their instruction. She is
Fabulous.
the most urgent I've ever seen in my career. She's absolutely amazing.
Say what you just said again. I think that's a good point.
Only 2 out of 18
Oh, yes.
criteria, needed to be addressed, so
Just pretty
that's
good for a
very
low incidence
impressive.
program,
It
so
is,
congrats.
it really is. And 1 teacher in charge of all of them, so very impressive.
And
Anything
one
else?
was partially implemented, the other was
Yes,
not implemented. So it's not,
absolutely.
again, it's not a black
Less than
eye, it's
2.
just things we need to work on.
No, and honestly, with all of the paperwork and all of the processes that we have to have in place, I personally, after putting all this together, was very happy
Yeah.
that we only had those 2, because in a way,
Yeah.
part of it is not something we could have met anyway,
Right.
based on that.
Okay, can we move on to the curriculum review cycle?
So as you are aware, we have a 6-year curriculum cycle. What you see in front of you is, this is the year that our current one runs out.
Yep.
And we needed to go back and look at that to see if we wanted the same order, if it made sense based on where the state is with frameworks, et cetera. And it does make sense. So we just took the last 5 years, put that on top, and then kept the same order going forward. One notation that is different on our bump year, as we like to call it, where we look at a particular area, we've inserted ELL there on that to make sure that we then revisit and we have that formally documented on this cycle as well. But it's to continue in the same order that we've been, and it makes sense based on the frameworks.
Yeah, no, that was gonna be my question, Amy, was, is there anything that would drive a change to what we've done in the past? But it sounds like, you've done the thoughtful analysis to say, yes, but in this case, we're gonna follow the same schedule.
Right. The only thing that I really see is in the area of elementary math and looking at some resources in the future and not waiting till the next review based on some of the things that we were able to identify before.
Yeah,
Need to
sorry,
vote
Steve.
on this?
I was just thinking the same thing. We probably should.
You
Didn't
do.
hear that.
Yes,
Should we
you
vote on it?
Could
you
I
should vote
motion
on it.
that we accept the administration's recommendation to keep the curriculum with the amendment, with the only change being ELL and stacking as it was previous?
I think you just want to approve the curriculum
I
cycle as
approve the,
presented.
can I motion we approve the curriculum as presented?
I second.
Any further discussion from anyone?
Thank you.
No?
Thank
All in
them.
favor?
Aye. Thank you.
This is only one piece of paper, but it's actually important because
No,
you
it's-
approve the
it's-
curriculum
it's it.
cycle,
It's
and
it.
what it does
Yeah.
is make us accountable for conducting those reviews and to tell you what we found.
Yeah.
So, I know it
Thanks,
sounds,
Amy.
it's actually more important than it might look on a piece of paper.
Just really looks funny to see 2022 on the.
Yeah.
No, I have to
Not that
talk,
far away.
I have to
No
talk to an
attention to
estate planner and
2022.
revisit
Not that far
everything.
away.
Yeah.
Beverly will be in her 20th year as a school committee member.
There we go. What a great year that would
What?
be.
No, I won't go there. I won't still be here, I don't think. You probably will be.
Maybe not, maybe not.
You will be, Mrs. Spinelli? No. All right, Amy, thank you.
I
for-
can't imagine working with a different team, so if you go, I'm gonna have to go.
I appreciate the thoughtfulness in that and all the work that that's going to represent.
Lots of good work.
Lots of good work.
Amy will still be here.
I think our curriculum reviews, though, are so in-depth, and I'm always impressed when we hear the report from the curriculum review teams. I'm just going to chime in on that after the fact, but it's such great work,
Yeah.
and it is an impressive amount of work, and a lot of it goes on over the summer. Teachers
What's
are
that
not
Winnie the Pooh phrase? If you don't know where you're going, there you are, or something. I mean, it's somebody else famous has a different version, but Winnie the Pooh also said
Winnie
it. Like,
did.
wherever you go, there you are. I think that's what
Yes,
it
I
said,
think
which means
that's
if you
right.
don't know where you're going, you just end up where you are and you don't know why you got there. Our curriculum review cycles prevent us from that.
All right, Debbie, superintendent's goals 2015-16.
Ooh, speaking of good work to do. So in thinking about my goals for this year, I always think about what you as a committee expect, but also what I personally, in my view, feel I need to work on and focus my attention to. And I think it has worked in the past for, if I write it down and make it a goal, then you can't help but focus on it because it's a constant reminder for yourself not to let time go by and not work on something. So one of the things that really occurred to me this summer, we have our annual administrative retreat, as you know. So our administrative teams are twice a month. Our administrative team meetings are twice a month on Wednesdays. But they're our smaller team. It's our central office people, our principals, and then the assistant principals. For here, it's the assistant principals here. For at the Ahern, because we alternate, it's the assistant principals there. But that's our smaller administrative team. Our larger administrative team is the group that we have together only at that day in August. And that includes our curriculum directors, our coordinators, our department heads at the high school, our tech integration specialists, our special education team facilitators. Anyone who has a leadership role in the district is on the larger team. We had such a great day in August at our retreat, and they commented on how much they really got out of the leadership aspect of what does it take to be a good leader, what are you working on as a leader, what are your challenges as a leader. That I thought after that, you know, we need to do more for them and not just once a year, because yes, they're busy, the department heads teach part-time, and everybody has a lot to do, but what is my role in making more opportunities available to them to reflect on what they do and to grow our leadership team and our collective thought for the larger team of 30-ish people. So what we thought we would do, and we're going to start discussing it this week, what I thought we would do, is that we want to implement monthly informal instructional rounds. So they're not going to be, you might have heard, especially if you're related to education, about formal walkthroughs where you have a formal data collection, you're asking questions, you want data. We have so much data, as you can see. The purpose isn't to collect more formal data and to, hatch marks of how often you're seeing something. The important thing is for us to ask some questions about what we're wondering about and what we see, and go in small groups of 2 and 3 and have conversations about that. So there will be pretty broad questions. I'm not going to say what the questions will be because I don't want to make it up myself. I want the team to create it, but probably something around literacy across the curriculum, which includes reading, writing, speaking, listening. It goes across every single subject area, even the arts. There's reading, writing, speaking, and listening going on. And probably something in the area of STEM, which includes science, technology, engineering, and math, which would also include our technology initiatives. So if we could come up with 2 broad questions that we're thinking about in terms of what do we want to discover, and to use those as opportunities to have informal strolls, if you will, or instructional rounds, and talk together about what does that mean. Because what our people are asking for is those cross-level visits as well. So some of the high school department heads would love to walk through a middle or elementary classroom with someone and say, this is what happens before you're up there, and to see how we have that vertical alignment. Our tech integration specialists would like to see what's happening at other levels. So to have those sort of recreated, we don't have to stay in static groups. We could, who are you going to go with this month, and then come back and talk about what we saw. It will either, it probably would do a number of things. Give us more confidence in the things we are doing, like we're onto something, let's keep going, let's continue our efforts there. We see good results. It could also say, gee, we've been so busy asking these other questions, collecting this other data. Here's one thing we noticed, maybe that deserves our attention a little bit. Mm-hmm. And also an opportunity for the other, there are generally 14 of us on the small team, so we've got double that. So the other half of the group to be able to articulate what it is that they need help with and connect with people so they feel more comfortable calling anybody else on the other 30-member team and talking about it. So that's what we're going to do. There'll be a more formal structure to it, and that's one of the things I wanted to do as my professional practice.
All right, so I'm sorry. Who will do the monthly informal instructional rounds to whom?
Everybody on the bigger team. Yep. Will connect with 1 or 2 other people each month and go and visit somewhere or several classes, and then come back and talk about what they saw with a focus question that they're going to look at.
So members of the larger administrative team will break up into groups and go somewhere.
Correct. More of a structure. I mean, it'd be like this month, here's where everybody's going, and we're going to come back in a month, talk about what we saw.
Okay.
So we're trying to do something to broaden the conversations among that team, but not necessarily do more observations of teachers, not the formal, we all have that to do. And we also, so we want to do something that's productive in terms of finding out more about their leadership challenges and visiting other levels to see what goes on. So it's communication and leadership development without it being another highly structured, stressful thing to do, because they've got plenty of that. And then maybe something specific will come out of it in terms of more of an action step, but you don't know what it is you'll find until you go and look. So it's more about us and our conversations than it is about, it's not observation of classrooms at all.
And you feel comfortable you can fit this in, or they can fit this in?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It is one more thing.
Yep.
But I think that we had such success with everybody in August saying this was really great, it really made me think, we really had great conversations, that how can I then do more for them in terms of that? It could end up, that I made some progress or significant progress. Maybe I didn't meet the goal, it might be a longer term goal, I don't know, but I think this is my obligation, I think, is to do more things like that, to just create more conversation among the bigger team about what actually happens in schools and allow some of the cross-pollination and cross-conversations to occur.
And just while I have the floor, one last question on this one. Would it make any sense, as I first read it, to look for, in addition to literacy and STEM, to look for some of our global connection opportunities?
We could. The problem is you're going to, we'll consider that. I mean, we're going to start talking about it on Wednesday for the first time. I think it could be problematic in that if you look for something that specific, and you stroll through 5 classrooms together, and you're going to think, well, I didn't see any of it, but the next 5 could have it.
Well,
so I think you're looking at something so specific, you might not see it.
What if instead of looking for, I'm just brainstorming, what if instead of looking for it, what if they came back with ideas of how to add to? I'm just thinking about.
I think, well, that's a good point. So what I'm going to think about is this. Does that improve their leadership skills, which is what we're trying to do?
That's a good point.
Or is it that teachers need to share more? What are some global connections that have really worked for you, and can others learn from you? That's what I'm struggling with. So we thought of a lot of things and then narrowed it down to, let's just keep to 2 things so that we have some focus and not just, not just visit with each other. So I don't know, it's a good thought though.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on this one, or you want Debbie to keep going?
Keep going.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of student learning, when thinking about all the things we have happening with students and so many things we're trying to accomplish, but I always, for this goal, as you know, I always put something that I personally will have involvement in, not a student learning goal that somebody else is going to work on, and I can say, great, I can check that off. So Amy and I are going to work on this together to tackle that English language learner program to meet those needs of the student population. It is kind of a complex thing to manage, because you're also dealing with families and cultures and challenges and how they communicate with the school or the program or the teacher, and what we can do better in so many areas. So we're going to use the Department of Ed's new recommended, as you heard Amy say, program evaluation process, and we're going to do it in a shorter period of time so that we can talk to you about budget considerations. But I would imagine after that report, there are going to be goals and action steps that in the second half of the year we're going to develop plans to address. So it is a year-long goal, because the report is only one thing. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of the year, we hope to make some progress on some of those things. All right, district improvement. Any questions about that one? All right.
My question on that one is, it's narrow in terms of the overall student pop. It's important, but it's narrow, right?
It's narrow because there's only a few students?
Yeah, I'm just reacting.
There are, but I think when I looked across all of our student populations, this is the group that's gotten the least of our attention.
Yep. The only other thought or idea I had here for consideration would be, is this where, and this particular objective made me think of this, is this where we should also talk maybe about full-day kindergarten and looking at budgetary.
I had that written down at the bottom of my page.
Okay. All right. Why don't you keep going?
You know what? If we this is great, this is gonna help me a lot. If you would like me to change it to full-day kindergarten, I will, and then you people will vote more money, and then I'll achieve it, and I'll check the Met box, and I'll be a happy person.
Yeah.
Well, it forces this
Yeah.
discussion.
Does that work for you?
That's a while off.
I love it when
That's a
you
long
people
while
are
off.
how I'm going to achieve my goal. That's awesome. Let's do it.
Well, to Bruce's point, if it was in there, it would be to continue the ongoing discussion of the possibility of full-day kindergarten in the district. It's not a foregone conclusion.
That
we
is.
got it.
You know, here's why I'm very
Right.
appreciative of that
Because there's a
comment.
lot of
If
feasibility
you
stuff
ask
we
me
gotta
what
figure
3
out.
things you want to accomplish in
Yeah.
the next year or 2, that would be at the top of my list.
Absolutely.
Why I didn't put it down, but I'd be thrilled to, why I didn't put it down is that it's a budgetary problem.
Uh-huh.
And I think the solution has a narrow, it's
For
a
you
narrow
to,
place.
for you to exceed the goal, it's by us approving it. I
Didn't we
understand what
put
you're
it
saying.
on our
That'd be
school
great.
committee goals, our district goals?
We did.
So it's.
Well, that's why I
There.
phrased it as feasibility or continued discussion, because the superintendent could meet the goal, but not necessarily
Be able to pay for
bear
it,
fruit
fund it.
on having a full-day kindergarten
We do
within a
have it
year.
in our joint goals, you know, the ones we
yeah.
did, where it says, ensure the budget adequately supports the district mission, vision, and goals, such as the possibility of offering free full-day universal kindergarten. So this
That's
is what I share with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was,
So let's leave it there. Let's
All
leave
right.
it there.
if you would,
No, I had it at
If
the
you would
bottom, Bruce
ensure
says,
it
hey,
by me
what
putting it
about? Yeah,
down, and
so
then-
we're in the same
and then I-
mindset there.
that would be great, because then I'd say, you didn't help me meet my goal, Mr. Chairman, so now I look bad. That'd be awesome. Thanks, though. You really helped my cause. You helped me with what I feel is my most challenging.
I didn't help you, we
problem.
just struck it. It was an idea we just struck, so.
Well, I'm gonna hold you to it anyway. That is
The goal.
that's my biggest priority. I look forward to our continuing discussions about how we get to free universal full-day kindergarten.
All right, district improvement.
Yes, so this is a goal you might be familiar with. I've continued it from last year in a more narrow focus, because some of the other things in the area we have achieved. So, as you know, I had some progress last year. It is our goal to have a computer science course available at the high school. We continue to explore how we're going to achieve this. It continues to be a huge challenge, but it is, I had this as a goal last year for this September, and there just isn't a curriculum out there, so I wasn't able to achieve it, but doesn't mean I want to give up on the goal. So, Mrs. Myers-Packler and I have talked about where can we go for resources and how can we make that happen. And so I do understand it's a continued goal, and I am refocusing my energy on that. The good news is that we have made progress that isn't exactly where we hope to be. But this summer, as you know, we had a computer science camp offered for beginner and intermediate students, which was very popular and very well received. And the same people that ran our summer camp are coming in to offer after-school computer science clubs at the elementary and middle schools throughout this year. So I put the flyers in your other matters, informational items, to show you that they're actually gonna run it several times a year. If they get enough kids, they'll run it fall, winter, and spring in every one of the elementary schools. And so that has been a great partnership for us. We brought in outside people, as you know, and that was terrific. So I'm very proud that I did that this summer, and that the people are willing to continue and offer it in school. But it doesn't achieve the ultimate goal, which is to grow students interested in computer science, which we're doing at the elementary middle level, and then have a course for them to take at the high school. So I'm back at it. Goal 4 is, I keep this on in some form every year, which is to continue to expand outreach and communication to community groups and other constituents. And every year, I think my challenge is to find a new and different way for outreach. But I think it's not something that any superintendent can check off and say, yep, outreach, communication, done that, I'm sort of done. So every year I try to say, what could I do more or differently? So this year, the two things that I'm going to focus on are to create and utilize a district-wide Twitter account to promote the schools, and and that other people other than me, but a small group would have access to, so that we can in real time kind of update and highlight some of the great things that are happening in the schools, and therefore using social media to inform the public a little bit more, and to leverage the district website to update information in a more dynamic way. I think I've told the committee that that our current website, Mr. Aaron Heyer is looking at carefully. We don't have the capacity, the way the current website is structured, for an RSS feed, which is a real-time kind of update feed, but he's working on that, and that is really important to our plans as a committee on our strategic plan, and to me as a superintendent. So we want to be able to leverage our district website using a little bit more dynamic information. So our goal is 2 to 4 tweets a month and an active RSS feed on the web page by the spring. It's going to take a lot of infrastructure work, though. I just want to let you know it's not as simple as we thought, which is
Spring
just to put an
of
RSS
2016 is
Yes.
quite close.
I know, but you have to have a goal, and I will say this: it's more important to have ambitious goals than to have ones that are less ambitious and meet them every time. So I would rather have more ambitious goals and make some progress, but not all. That's just me. So,
No, it's us too.
okay. So we're giving it a whirl. And then this goal I'm going to keep until it's finished, and continue to implement the plan for the completion of the outdoor athletic complex at Foxborough High School, toward our goal of having a full campus here. Specifically, we have our booster parent committee working to raise funds for the concession stand at the community field, and we'll continue to pursue that. See how far we can go and where we can get some other sources for that. And during the 2015 school year, this year, we're going to assess the feasibility of putting forward the next phase, which is the 8-lane track toward a CIP request. So after the concession stand, our next two are really high-ticket items, but as I've said many times, the high school's been here since roughly 1960-ish, and you still don't have a full campus here. So I think 55 years later, time for some people to feel a little more urgent about that. So I'm hoping you will join me in that urgency.
Comments from the committee?
I think these are excellent goals. And some will be in progress.
Yes. So don't be disappointed, but I'm working hard.
No, I know, but given the scope of them.
Okay, so Bevy, you support. Anybody else have any
I
concern
absolutely
or
support.
questions, comments?
I think you can do it, Deb.
Someone want to
Can only
make
try.
a motion to approve the superintendent's goals as,
I will make that motion, Bruce.
I'll second that.
any further discussion? All those in favor? Good luck, Madam Superintendent.
Thank
We're
you.
behind you.
All the way.
Good, because I'll be
She'll be coming to us.
I'll be calling you and talking to you and saying, so, what can you do to help me with this? But it's a good place to be. We have good work to do, I always say.
Speaking of our athletic complex, Mr. Yukna, FHS lighting in-kind service donation.
Yeah, I think I was kind of remiss when they actually offered this a while ago, so I wanted to get it on the record, and I also obviously wanted to send them thanks that they've done the work. I think I explained to you when we first went out, and the Burns family was very helpful in getting Musco Lighting to give us a significant discount, 50% off of what it would cost just to buy the lighting supplies. By using the Musco name, when we actually went to do the installation side of it, Island Lighting was the group that was brought forward as a partner of theirs in this area. The O'Neills, Jared and his father, both very generously came in and volunteered to do the work of the installation of the lighting, which is typically about a $35,000 project. It's not just labor or their equipment. They also paid for the cement materials and things of that nature that went into putting the 4 poles in place for us. And they've obviously they've even volunteered to come back and do a readjustment on the lights if there's anything once they go on. So I would really like to A, have you accept their donation, and then B, obviously send them a letter of thanks as part of that. I think that quote that came out was actually something that came from one of the emails that I got from Jared. And it was not just him and his father, but he really felt strongly that his own staff was just happy as a group to be involved with this, and wanted to make sure that we kind of not only thanked him, but thanked the staff that way.
Can you read the quote?
Yeah, the quote was, as a local contractor who remembers Sam's story well, we would be happy just to be part of this field coming together in his name.
I found that
It's
so
unbelievable, I
touching.
know.
And this contractor is not a Foxborough company; they're from Norfolk, but just shows the influence that Sam had in inspiring others and touching them with his heart and his story, and why we did choose to agree to the students' request that we name the field after Sam. So I was really glad you included this in your letter, Bill. The quote.
We have a motion to approve.
I would like to make a motion.
Approve and accept, I guess.
I would like to make a motion that we
Accept.
accept with great gratitude the $35,000 in-kind contribution for the island lighting and power systems offered by Norfolk.
I'd like to second that, and thank you from bottom of my heart, all of our hearts, I guess.
Not from Norfolk, from Island Lighting and Power Systems, right, Bev?
Right, that island, that's what I, yeah,
Yeah, there's
from
that,
them.
Okay,
I mentioned the name.
thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. And Bill, obviously, we are happy to support you in thanking them for doing so. On our behalf as well. Acceptance of a donation.
Yep, we have another donation.
Well, this is a nice
One of
little
our
donation.
most generous boosters as well. We have, all our boosters are terrifically generous, but this is a donation from the Foxborough Touchdown Club for $5,200 toward new uniforms.
Wow.
Very generous.
They are snappy looking new uniforms.
They're gorgeous.
too, by
Are
the
they?
way.
They are
look really
gorgeous.
nice.
So, we received this within the last 10 days or so, so we would love for you to accept this donation.
Don't all
For
wait for.
gift.
Motion to accept
Thank you.
I'll
with
second
gratitude.
that.
Any further?
I need to abstain as I'm part of the touchdown club.
I guess I probably should abstain, that maybe
Are you-
somebody else should second. Well, my son, yes,
Do you
I'm a
have to?
booster, I don't
I
know.
could-
I'm a member of the
No.
I
touchdown
don't
club,
think
so
you
you don't
need
have
to.
to?
I'm
I
a member
would.
of the
Okay.
touchdown.
You don't have
Club.
to? Okay, he said you don't have to abstain, I will vote then.
Not benefiting from it.
You are,
You're not
I mean,
My son is.
Yeah.
My son
I
is.
said it
But you're
by
giving
mistake.
it.
Right, to the
You're
students.
not really
Okay.
benefiting, so I think it's fine.
You're not,
Okay.
you're not personally benefiting
Okay.
from this.
I just want to do the right thing.
All those in favor? All five of us.
Great.
October 1 enrollment day.
Here it is.
Here it is.
Dun, 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 dun.
+1.
There you go. Yes, the variance, no, so, actually, I do want to make a comment, actually. So, one of the things that Bill and I met about, and we talked about at length and decided to do, which I think is a great idea, which was Bill's idea, which is we get enrollment updates to the business office from each school secretary
Yep.
every month, but we also have information in Power School. So Bill's idea was, why don't we also include what's the information we have in Power School and see if we have a variance?
Ah,
So it actually uncovered a couple of problems. So in other words, the kids you have in school and the ones that are officially registered in Power School, what's the difference? And where is it? So one of the things that it uncovered is that if we have students in the half-day program and half-day pre-K, so there's students typically with IEPs who aren't quite ready, but we want to give them some experience and help them grow and be challenged more, we were identifying them as a pre-K student. But it's actually better, because they're also a half kindergarten student. We need to count them as a half-day kindergarten student, because that's better for our Chapter 70 money and everything else. It's a minimal difference. You're only talking about a handful of kids. But great conversations. I think that was an interesting day. So I had a couple of questions over it, dumped it on Bill's desk, and it turned out to be an entire day's work for Bill. My little questions like, hey, what about this and what about that? And I came back from meetings at the end of the day, and I think he had spent a couple of hours on it anyway. I might exaggerate, but it really, some great things came out of it. So we're going to continue to report to the committee what our Power School numbers are saying and what variance that we have. So for example, we had a tuitioned out student that wasn't in Power School and now will be entered. So when we saw that variance, Bill to do some detective work. Who's that one student? What's the discrepancy? Why is it? And if they're tuitioned out, they should still be enrolled in our system. So it allows us to catch a lot of things, and I really commend him and his office for doing more work, because I think that'll be interesting for us in another way of being more accountable, and maybe catching some things that need our attention that really would wouldn't see otherwise.
Right?
Yeah. So that you'll see that at the bottom, and we'll explain if there's a variance.
Perfect. Thank you. Other matters?
I hope everybody will have a long weekend when it comes up. We won't have another meeting before the October long weekend.
Isn't that this weekend?
Is it this? Is it
4-day weekend this
It is.
weekend.
Oh, it's this weekend.
We have staff development day on Friday
Oh,
No,
yes.
no school Friday.
or Monday.
No school Monday.
So it is this
So
weekend.
leaf peeping time. Leaf peeping time.
Tina?
Well, Bevy and I are going to meet on Friday. We have posted a meeting for our policy subcommittee. So we're going to continue our diligent work on our policy review for our school committee policy manual.
Yes, we had one
That's our professional work
change
day.
recommended that you guys are going to work on, which,
We are.
which is going to help us with our language.
Wordsmithing,
So that's
yes.
This
terrific.
is my research on said change right here, so.
Thank you in advance for
We
doing
will
that.
report back to the
Terrific
committee.
policy subcommittee.
Yes, we do.
Well, we hope to have something on the 19th.
And maybe the revision
Okay.
by the 19th for the first reading.
We'll do our best.
Thank you to the parent who brought that to our attention, and thank you to
Absolutely.
you guys for doing the follow-up. Anything else, Bevy? Tina, anything else?
Tina, you had something, what you talked about with me earlier?
Oh, well, we had Debbie's letter, very nice letter to Mr. Sousa.
Yes.
I did have a conversation with someone who is interested in the position. So we at least have a willing
for the audit-
volunteer for the,
the
I'm
audit.
sorry, yes, for the audit committee.
So we may be able to vote on that next meeting?
I think it will be on our agenda. As I recall, we need to make a decision by the end of the month.
The
Right.
town
town
requested that
asked
you have
us.
somebody by the end of the month, but I just wasn't sure it was gonna be possible, so you say that you have one, which
I
you did let me know.
I do have
Very good
someone who is a
candidate.
So-
willing
Yes.
volunteer.
So if the
Which is
committee
wonderful.
desires, we'll put that on the agenda for the
That'd be great.
19th, and the town will be very happy with us, and let's see what happens.
Great.
Compliments to anyone who wants to come forward to do anything at all.
Yes. Okay, anything else? Melissa, I missed you, I'm sorry. You ready to go? Spinelli?
I only have one thing. Our new nurse leader, Linda Mealy, who's the nurse at the Borough School, she and Allison Johnson are gonna co-chair a new I will say reestablished, because I think at some point it must have existed, Foxborough Public Schools School Health Advisory Council. Talk about all aspects of health and wellness. The Department of Public Health really likes you to have those. So Amy and I are going to serve on it this year and see how that goes, and they're going to co-chair, and we have a YMCA community agency partner and a few other people internally, Janelle Erskine, CJ Neely, the other people, and we're going to tackle all issues related to health and wellness, both nutrition and nursing challenges. So we've had a couple of things I'll be, informing you about. But one of the great things about it is that we decided this morning that one of our meetings would focus on looking at all the wellness policies that relate to anything related to wellness, and see if the
Sounds like
school
they're
health
thinking up more work for us.
see if the School Health Advisory Council has any impact on any policy that needs, I'm gonna not look over there for any policy that they think
This other you should have kept
that
for
they
the next
think needs
meeting.
updating, and I think that will be great.
No, I think
Not
that's a
only do
great
the policy
idea.
subcommittee ladies love to have good work to do, but I think we've learned in the past that some of the things, like the allergy policy, if you remember from about 5 years ago, that we tend to tackle things when it becomes a problem. And that's when we really revise a lot of our policies. Our technology policy, we're trying to be more proactive. So I think this will be, just like the chunk of technology policies you got, if we can look at the chunk of wellness policies and have an expert group weigh in on them. There may be no changes, in which case you'd be happy to hear that from me. There may be some minor ones, there should be some major ones. So we're gonna take a proactive look at our wellness policies and come to you with some suggestions, maybe, I'm gonna say more mid-year to early spring.
I think that's a great idea because it has evolved over the
Right.
last few, health, especially the health classes
Especially.
at the high school level, but health and wellness
Yes.
at the high school really have changed, and the same at the elementary and middle school level, but I think it's a great idea. Absolutely.
So that's the only thing I have, that I commend people for coming forward. We're gonna have a good group on these things and see how we do.
Great, thank you.
And you come back to me.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I kinda asked if you had anything else and right to Melissa.
That's okay. I saw on the Taylor School sign that October 7th, Wednesday, is Walk to School Day, so I just want to remind our elementary school friends to walk to school, and the students who get bused to school who live at too great a distance to walk. It's my recollection that they do a lap around the school so that everybody gets the opportunity to walk.
Are they changing their date?
I don't know. I
think
read
they might
it on
be.
the sign that it was Walk to School Day on Wednesday, so I don't know because I have graduated
Maybe they
from
decided
elementary
against it, but there was some discussion about changing.
They haven't
date.
changed their sign, so if they're changing the date, they need to get on it.
Okay.
So my other thing is, I noticed your very nice letter to Mr. Goronsky for the Boy Scouts, Foxborough Boy Scouts donation to the Sam Burns Community Field concession stand.
Yes.
I just again wanted to thank them, but also, Sam was an Eagle Scout, so it's a very meaningful
Yes.
donation. The Boy
That meant
Scouts
a
do a
lot
lot
to
for
me,
the
too.
community anyway, but that donation comes from the proceeds for the Pancake Breakfast, which is a big scouting fundraiser in the town. It's a really great community event. But Sam was always a huge part of that, as a Cub Scout, as a Boy Scout, and again, he was such a role model and touched so many people. So I just wanted to
That
speak
check was
to
a
that.
wonderful surprise that
know.
occurred right in the middle of the homecoming game, and it was just wonderful.
He
So-
was in that troop with him, too. with
Yes.
John
Right.
Stewart Matthews.
So one of the things you're going to see at the next meeting is that we've had a lot of people donating to the concession stand, the boosters, group that's working with me. So what we're thinking of doing for you, rather than having acceptance of many different donations, is summarizing the donors, not people who bought all the T-shirts, but summarizing the donors for the field and having you accept them all at once, and then wait for hopefully another chunk
That's
in the
great.
spring. So you
That's
should
a good way
expect to
do
see
it.
that next time.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Goronsky.
Yes.
Amy?
Just 2 upcoming elementary parent information nights. On Wednesday, October 7th at 6:30 at Borough, we will have the parent information night, which is the same information night on elementary report cards that took place back in June. So we're repeating that just for those that maybe didn't get a chance to come. So that's Wednesday at 6:30 at Borough. If you did come in June, it is the same presentation. And then also on October 20th at Borough at 6:30, one of the things with our commitment with Darkness to Light and training every single staff member, we're looking to add a lesson, because of the research that's there and what we've learned from that, to add a lesson at grade 2 on good touch, bad touch. And that's been in coordination with our elementary principals, our guidance, our nurses, and our wellness staff. And it's really been led by Janelle Erskine as far as the K-12 wellness department head. And we've spent a lot of time looking at research there last year, and so we want to provide a parent information night based on that lesson. All materials will be right on the website. People could look at that ahead of time. We'll be there to answer questions. And at the same time, it's like any of our other topics. If parents wanted to opt out, they can do that.
Great.
Okay. Other than our professional development day that's on Friday for teachers, looking forward to that. And that should be a great day. And no school for kids Friday.
Thank you. Steve?
I'm good.
Marilyn?
I had the pleasure of meeting with both Deb and Bill to go over preliminary budget, because I'm on the subcommittee, and Steve and I hopefully will go in the next week or 2 and do a meeting with them and get our ball rolling.
Great. Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Bill?
Nope, I'm good.
Janet?
All set, thanks.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.